Hey everybody, how we doing? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Ed Madison podcast project. Oh my God, it's been a while.
Cast pod.
It's actually been over a month since I've recorded one.
You have to change your acronym.
I know.
It's the EMCP.
Whatever it's
the
going to
Cast
be.
Pod Project.
Yeah. It could change depending on what time of the night it is, because the more we drink, it seems like the more I'm going to stutter and mess up and say things over and over.
It's a rough
again.
start to that night then.
And I am not necessarily drunk right now, but I did have a little bit to drink earlier today, after work hours, of course. And that is our Cedar Ridge single malt whiskey. It's a limited run that actually got released today, of all days, by coincidence, and I didn't even introduce. This is Joey Kramer. Say hello, Joey.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. So Joey's hanging out today, and they released this today by chance. I went over to Swisher, Iowa, and you had to buy them that way. They don't ship them anywhere, and they're not putting this in Hy-Vees or anything like that.
Which is surprising. They have everything else to IV over there.
They do, absolutely. The unfortunate thing is the one that I've had before that I had on the last podcast with Mike Oshner, just the regular single malt, not the limited edition one. That's hard to find too. Only like the Coral Ridge Hy-Vee has it.
So what's different about the limited edition one versus the...
I'm glad you asked.
The regular. It's like I set it up, right?
You did, and that was not planned.
I'm the Andy Richter over here.
Yes. So basically, they were trying to explain to me when I was there, because I was curious and trying to figure out more, even though they've got something published on their website kind of, briefly describing what's going on with it. But a lot of it has to do with cocoa powder. So cocoa powder is used in the mix, and also cherry aged casks too. So of course it's probably going to be
sherry or cherry.
Cherry, not sherry, like
really?
We're used to with a lot of space sides, but cherry. And I know it's going to be probably on their website, and I was just trying to cheat really quick and see if I could figure out if it was on here.
Oh, it's all right.
But single cask selection, which we talked about earlier, makes it a little bit stronger. So not 40%, but 47. So a 94 proof, if you want to do the math there, but
it's multiply by 2, right?
Yeah, basically, and that's good because I'm not good at math. Now, Joey, on the other hand, is probably a wizard. Is it fair to say, or a mathematician?
I wouldn't say genius, no, but
I'm gonna let him.
Better than average, I guess.
How about this? While you're kind of, if you want to, you can say who you are, and
sure.
And I'll pour myself a little something, and you're good to go for now?
Yeah, if you want to pour some more in there, you're welcome to.
I would love to.
So I'm Joey Kramer, as you mentioned a couple of times now. I am a high school math teacher actually here in Durant, Iowa. But I play in about 3 different bands right now in the area here. The Love Dogs, and the Love Dogs are like Eastern Iowa in general. And they do kind of like party rock type stuff. Facing Time down in Muscatine, Iowa. And they do what I like to call like 90s college alt rock music, like so Red Hot Chili Peppers and that kind of stuff. Like it's a lot of fun. It is. Yeah. And then the third one is currently in the basement. It's a band called Hard Sevens. They do like 90s, 2000s pop rock. So
is that the one with your spouse?
Yeah, with my wife. Yeah.
With your wife? Yes. I don't know if you want me to say her name or not.
Yeah, that's all right. So no. So my wife does synthesizer stuff and keyboards. She's been playing keyboards for, at this point, it's got to be decades, right? She plays cello with Muscatine Orchestra.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so she was like, you know what, I kind of want to do a band thing. And I was like, I have the skills to put bands together, so I might as well, let's do this thing.
He has a little bit of experience, as we both do. I mean, we could probably put this on our resume if we needed to. It won't get us anywhere.
Organizational skills.
Yes, exactly. I call it OCD, but organizational skills.
It's all about how you frame it.
Yeah, so speaking of math and, proof of alcohol and stuff like that, doubling it, but I know what you do is a lot more obviously in depth. He's not teaching kindergarten or first grade. It's
high school. Yeah.
It's high school.
I do algebra 1 freshman level, which I think is really freaking cool. They make some of the most interesting mistakes that you see at the high school level, to be honest with you. And it's really it's cool to see what they do, and it's cool to see what they think. And that's awesome. And so I'll do pre-calc, calc, stats, and computer programming / robotics as well. But of all of those, algebra makes the coolest mistakes. And then second to that is probably robotics, because they'll build stuff that you're like, I never would have thought to solve the problem that way, but you've done it. And that's really cool.
That's pretty cool. So for me, I'd like to let's talk about both of those really quick, because I'm really curious. So for me, I was never really, my strong suit was never math, unfortunately, even algebra. I mean, I did fine. I did, B's and A's, or probably B's in algebra. 1 especially, I think 2 I may have dodged out of that. But because I didn't have to take it.
Sure, of course.
So,
yeah. It's it's a required thing now. Algebra 1 through algebra 2. So
2 is required now?
Yeah.
Well,
Fortunately or unfortunately, right?
Yeah. I remember being looking at algebra 2 and thinking, yeah, I could do this, but I have all the credits that I need and everything. So I'm like, maybe not so much.
That's what people do with pre-calc.
Is that what it is
and,
with pre-calc?
And stats. That's usually a senior level class. So the kids who take it are the kids who are going to college.
Gotcha. And I am not, obviously. I work at McDonald's, so I didn't really need that college degree.
You know what? The fanciest janitor. If you know stuff, you know stuff. You got to be like Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah, it could be like that. I'm just scrubbing floors and doing math on the walls.
That's exactly what you do. And then a teacher walks in and then figures out someone just solved this problem that was unsolvable. Who the heck did it?
Or it could be the complete opposite with me. They could look at that calculation on the wall and be like, what is this? None of this makes sense.
Thank God this person's a janitor.
I was trying to calculate the mixture of my chemicals with water, and it didn't turn out very well.
So long as it's not bleach thing, you're okay.
Well, they ended up having to close the bathrooms for a while just to kind of get them aired out.
It may have been a bleach thing then.
Hazmat suits may have been involved.
So fun fact, my uncle was cleaning up his basement, right? He moved into a place probably, it's got to be about a year now. But he was talking to me about cleaning out the basement. And he was like, so I mixed it up bleach, and I mix it like half bleach, half water. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's like, yeah, I could only stay down there for like 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and then I'd leave and I'd come back. And I'm like, of course you could. It's bleach. It's like 1 capful for a gallon.
Right. You're still alive. What would happen in that situation? Worst case scenario, you just pass out or something?
I don't know if it's anything that fumes are going to kill you, but if you drink that shit, you're dead.
Obviously. I mean...
Don't fact check me. I don't know anything about bleach and fumes of bleach. So
don't try that at home. Unless you're a licensed janitor like me, don't even touch the stuff. Let a professional handle it.
You're right.
Yes.
No, so statistics is also really, really, really cool. I just love data diving.
Yeah.
So we do some really neat stuff in stats that's pretty cool. First semester, we talk a lot about gambling. And mostly like, why is gambling bad? Why are you going to lose when you walk into a casino? Why do casinos still exist, right?
Because of odds.
Right, yeah. But the casino sets up a game, and then they slant it in their favor somehow, either in the betting scheme, so the payouts, or in the actual official probability of something happening, right? So if roulette's a common example, and people think roulette's an easy one, right? It's not. It's probably the worst odds you're going to have in the thing. Because what they did was they set up a wheel with 0 to 36, and then or 0 to 38. Sorry,
I don't know.
And
how many, yeah.
Red, black. And then they set up your payout odds based on that, and then they put a 0 and 00 in there, and they left the payout odds exactly the same.
Is it 0 and 00 the green ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And Europe, fun fact for you, only has a single 0. They don't have the 00.
Oh, more likely you're going to win.
Or you could argue that it has better odds than America, yes, but
sure.
So what they did was they set them up. They said, here are the odds, here's the payouts based on those odds, and then they put in 2 more numbers and then didn't change the payout odds. So you'll win the same amount that you were going to win before, but now you're not winning as much or enough to warrant playing the game.
So the manufacturer that makes these roulette tables, they have like 2 assembly lines. One that has 00 and 0, and one that...
I don't know if there's a place that goes like exclusively European stuff and exclusively American boards, and I don't know if the Europeans have changed now, so it's 0 and 00. But at one time, at the very least, European boards were 0 only.
If they were smart.
Well, if they were smart like us American folk here.
Of course. Us American folk. America, and we're drinking, this is not a scotch, of course. Usually it's scotch, but this is made right here in Iowa, so I'm proud to represent. And by the way, fun story that goes with this, I might as well talk about it on air, because you never know, maybe the good, kind folks over at Cedar Ridge, and her name is, I'm going to butcher it, but I think it's Anna is what her name is.
I'll take your word for it.
I'll fact check that
afterwards. How
afterwards.
can you butcher Anna?
Well, it's either, not butcher, I guess. It's either Anna or I hope it's Anna.
You're gonna say something entirely different. It's gonna be like it's either Anna or it's like Trisha. Like it's one of them.
It's one of them. So I went into excited to buy this in person because they released it today.
Yeah. Yep.
And which, by the way, how do you like it so far?
It's been pretty good. Yeah.
Do you taste that the kind of the aftertaste comes in that kind of, you can taste the cocoa a little bit in
yeah.
there?
Yeah, you can taste some of that stuff. And honestly, you can taste that it's a little sharper because it's cask strength stuff. But you dilute it with a little water in there, I think you'd be all right.
Like my ice, I usually do. So typically, Joey knows that I have on the rocks, usually what I do, a big cube though, not a bunch of small ice cubes.
Like a board cube, basically.
And the nice thing is with the cube though is that it doesn't melt as quickly, which is nice. It basically helps keep it chilled longer, which I like. And he's a neat drinker, and he definitely prefers the not the space sides that I usually drink on this, but he prefers the Isla variants, which are more peaty and smoky, like I've talked about on previous podcasts, which I know not as much about, but it's always fun to have them every now and then. But anyway, so I decided to kind of a compromise, even though I didn't really talk to him about it ahead of time. I just like, hey, what I'll do is instead of having on the rocks, we're just going to drink from the Glencairns. And I'm going to go crazy.
Glencairns are a type of glass, just an FYI.
Yeah.
In case anyone isn't sure.
Yeah. And the fun fact is, too, I learned recently, is that apparently the Glencairn name comes from where somebody created this. It has to do with the street they lived on or something like that. It has nothing to do with the guy's last name.
I assumed it was a region, to be honest with you.
It had to do with some street and like cross section or something.
All right.
That's what I learned. So I don't remember it all exactly, but maybe I can link it in the description down below. But getting back to this though, I went in today to Cedar Ridge, and by the way, their staff was really friendly.
Oh yeah.
So even though I didn't talk to the lady who was in charge of the probably PR though, right?
Sure. I would assume that's what you're talking to if you want to.
Yeah. And I emailed this lady and I emailed the company and she got back to me. I was like, hey, I've got this podcast. I usually drink single malt scotch. I'd love to have your regular single malt, which I've had before, of course, on the show and also in just normally. But they kind of went back and forth with me and then nothing. So I went in today. I asked one of the friendly staff. I'm like, hey, is Sarah here today or Anna? One of those two.
Or anyway, Trisha, maybe.
It could be Trisha. It might, it could just be Trisha. And anyway, she was sadly unavailable.
Yeah.
Which was fine. Yeah. I was going to buy a couple of bottles anyway. It had nothing to do with that. But it'd be cool if they want to sponsor the podcast for at least one episode. And I still want to get to with Joey. I think it's fun to talk about too your ties with Cedar Ridge.
Yep.
And I would definitely want to get to that before I forget about, pre-calc and all that other stuff.
So the Cedar Ridge bourbon has really been my favorite, to be honest with you. Of all the stuff they've done, that one I think is pretty smooth, pretty great. And I am not a huge bourbon drinker in general, to be honest with you, but if I have a bottle of Cedar Ridge on hand at most times.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was okay. When we had that 3-pack at the last podcast with Mike Oshner, it was the rye, their bourbon, and then the single malt. I thought they were all pretty good.
Yeah.
The rye was definitely another rye to me, right?
I'm not huge on ryes anyways. They're a little sharper, to be honest with you, which is part of the reason I'm not a big fan of Space Sides, is they're also a little sharper taste to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Space Sides are kind of like the rise of the Scotch.
Okay.
And so personally, I prefer Islas, which have most of the character.
Yep, I understand. Or different character. I wouldn't say most of the character.
I would say most of.
There's plenty of character in a lot of the Space Sides I've had. But it's all about what you like. Thankfully, there's no wrong way to drink what you like either. So that's kind of nice. Unless it's, I don't know. There's probably a wrong way. Oh, don't mix it. Don't mix it. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Mostly don't mix Scotch with soda. But if that's what you like, that's what you like. I mean, come on.
It's true, but at the same time, I'm cringing over here thinking about that. Like a nice.
I mean, that's like people doing steak with ketchup, and I'm like, you don't do that. But if you really, really want to, then that's why you want to eat it. You bought the steak. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't ever buy this and then throw some RC Cola in it or some shit like that.
I don't know if people know what RC Cola is anymore. By the way.
Oh yeah. Is that showing
Royal Crown Cola?
The blue label.
You outing yourself there.
I mean, do they not make it anymore?
I think they make it, but I don't know if people know what it is.
I mean, I really don't drink pop anymore, so I'm not.
Well, sure, fair enough.
And just to be clear, it's not like when I was drinking pop, that's what I was drinking. I just remember, wasn't that cheap too?
I don't know if it was at one point or not, to be honest with you. I have had RC in my time, but not frequently.
Yes. I mean, it's royal. So
it is Royal Crown.
It would demand a royalty, I would say.
Well, at one point I thought RC, the C stood for cola. It was Royal Cola. And then people were just saying Royal Cola Cola. And I was like, why are you saying cola on top of this thing?
Yeah. So. That reminds me of something else when you're talking about other acronyms too. And I'm trying to remember which one is the most common like that too.
PIN number is a frequent one. An ATM machine.
Okay.
I'm like, you have a machine that prints ATMs? Sounds amazing.
And that's the humor I appreciate right there. Most people, and for me sometimes too, to be fair. I mean, we haven't had enough to drink, I'm there, but I'm not there yet. So I guess just to recap that, please, Cedar Ridge, if you want to. I know it's not like you're going to have a huge reach, but this could grow to something bigger. And let's face it, all the people I'm talking to anyway are mostly local. That's who's going to, if you're at Hy-Vee, it's not like it's going to be in a Hy-Vee in Madison, Wisconsin, right?
Right. Well, I mean, there probably is a Hy-Vee up there, but
there is. There's also a Woodman's. I think it's called Woodman's, and they actually have really good They have really good buys on all kinds of alcohol, but you can only use a debit card or cash. But it's like their monster grocery stores up in that area.
That seems totally reasonable.
Even bigger than Piggly Wiggly up there too. If you're familiar with that.
I do know I've never been in a Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
But I know what they are.
Oh yeah.
And it's great. So out east, it's like there's an entire separate like liquor store thing. Bottle King is a big one out there.
Okay.
And it's really cool. It's not massive, but it's a good sized store that's just liquor, wall to wall.
Like Benny's.
And that's why I mentioned it's not massive. Benny's is like a Walmart, but it's just liquor, wall to wall liquor. Yeah, it's what it is. I mean, the thing is massive. And the prices aren't necessarily like Walmart style, but it's just liquor in a store that is the size of like a Walmart supercenter, and it's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's an adult playground.
Shout out to the locations in Chicago that I've been to.
I think there's 4 of them over there, 4 or 5, aren't there?
I've been to 2 of them.
Yeah, they're awesome. I will definitely take a trip out there because there's some liquors you can only get out that way that I can't get around here.
It's always nice to have a nice selection of like scotch for me. You just go down, it's a whole freaking row, and then there's like a huge. I got into a couple of Japanese ones. There's like a Japanese section too, and all the different types, and it's so awesome. I wish they were around here. I wish something was similar to that around here.
To be fair, I mean, Benny's is only about a 3.5 hour drive. So
true.
I'll take a trip with an uncle of mine. We'll just drive down to Chicago and we'll buy up on some stuff and we'll drive back. So
a nice little bonding trip together.
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, whatever.
Do some local Chicago place. There used to be a nice hot dog place like right down the block from Benny's that made their own brats, made their own hot dogs, made their own sauces. No, it was like a local shop, like someone like them, but it wasn't Portillo's. But they made their own everything and they served them up. I don't think they're open anymore, but
gotcha.
Portillo's probably ran them out, right?
Probably. Well, the funny thing is you mentioned that up the road is because the one that me and Lacey went to the last time we were in Chicago, literally up the road was a Portillo's. Yeah, so that's why I thought about that.
Sure.
But yeah, so besides alcohol that we both appreciate, let's get back to really quick. So one question I have, and this probably has nothing to do with your level of algebra and all that, but like, is the Common Core math apply now to like all the other stuff too?
So Common Core is just a list of concepts, really, right? I mean, if you said, hey, here's the things you have to do today while you're at work, that's what Common Core is, but over the course of 4 years at high school. And so what they've said is, hey, these are the things that you need to make sure you get through. And that's it. Done. That's the whole thing. That's all the Common Core is. Now, what they've also said is that these are good topics to cover, right? Like, hey, perseverance is probably a good mathematical skill. So it would be nice if you did activities in class that covered these things and also introduced mathematical perseverance or multiple methods of following through on these things or any of those things, right? Like the discussion, the argument, the back and forth, all of those are good things to have. So it would be great if we had those things. Mm-hmm. But Common Core isn't any of that. Common Core isn't saying you need to teach this way because of these reasons, right? What you're seeing in modern mathematical classrooms, and I think this is amazing, is teachers are trying new stuff. And I think that's incredible because I've talked to people as a math teacher, and I hear one of two things. Either I hear, I was amazing at math, or I fucking hated math and it was awful. And I hear one of those two things more often than the other thing, right? I usually hear I hate it. Yeah, most people said they hated it.
But is that my age group, though, you're talking about?
Just anyone who talks to me about math. It's going to be either I loved it or I hated it. I'm like, look, if we have a ton of people saying that I hated math, we need people to do math, right? So if we have a ton of people saying I hated it and can't stand it and didn't want to do anything with it, shouldn't we change?
It makes sense.
Shouldn't we try something new?
Because isn't math, once you get into college, required on all these different degrees and stuff too?
More now than it used to be, yes.
Yeah, but okay. So I get the idea of Common Core, because I remember the first time my oldest, I don't know if my oldest skipped over Common Core, but one of my kids brought home math, and I helped him with it one night, like many other nights. But I remember the first time that it was a situation was when he brought it home. I'm like, yep, check it out. It's so easy, son. All you got to do is this, this, and this, the way that we learned back in the day. He's like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. And then he brought it back to school and it failed it because it wasn't done the way that they want him to do it with Common Core.
I think that's a different issue, to be honest with you. So
that was back in Muscatine, by the way. Too.
Sure, I don't judge. I think that's a different issue, though. Is being open to multiple perspectives is a thing that's useful in Common Core. But if he memorized a pattern and then took it to school and couldn't describe how that pattern worked, to be fair, a person needs to be able to tell you this is why I did this thing in this order. If you can do that, though, then why can't you do it that way?
I don't know. That's why I remember getting super upset about it. I'm like, what? Common Core? And it hit me. I'm like, oh man, I've heard about this, and now I'm seeing it and helping my kid and showing him, making sure he understands. I'm not just doing it. I'm showing him how to do it.
Yeah.
And then making him do the homework, right?
Yep.
And he still got it wrong. It was upsetting to me. And I get it though. They want you to. It's like that list. Maybe that preps them for other aspects of life, right?
It does. Well, and so at the K-12 level, we're trying to prepare them for a million different things. And some of those degrees that they're going to be doing in 4 years from now don't exist right now. How do you prepare them for a thing that we don't know what they're going to need, right?
Sure. Maybe you have for instance, I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Well, so the one that I go to is we like the Pythagorean theorem, right? Is a triangle thing, right? Which is great for areas and volumes and surface areas and all that stuff. Sure. But someone applied it a few years ago to, should we allow people to get out of the hospital at this point? Because of the arcs that were going on their heart rate monitor and things of that nature.
Really?
And I'm like, you know what? That's really cool.
Wow. Interesting. So, and that's, so Common Core, it does or does not have anything to do with what you're doing at this level then. But
it does, but not in the way that that people generally imply that it does.
Okay.
So I've had this conversation more than one time at this point.
I'm not surprised.
My spiel has gotten pretty spiely.
That's okay. Spiel it up, because I'm a layman, right? So I need to hear this as just give it to me, right?
And to be fair, one of the things that I think they did just an awful shoddy job on was bringing in parents and talking to them about what they were doing and why they were doing it and how it was going to be beneficial, right? Because I think parents love helping their kids, and I think parents have the best in their mind for their kids. I think teachers have the same thing. And I think that there's a miscommunication between those two groups sometimes.
Sure.
And I think that's probably an issue. And we need to address that, but we need to address that on a different level than one teacher is talking to one parent and then the next parent and then the next parent, right? You need to have some kind of whole system talking the same level and the same terminology and the same methods to the same people.
So what's the best way to implement that?
That's tough, right? I think the best method would probably be to have parents kind of come in a few weeks in a row, not just every day, but hey, here's a night where we're going to bring you through a lesson, right? And maybe do a side-by-side. Here's a lesson taught in the traditional, and it's probably something that they don't know anymore, like long division, stuff that people forget almost immediately after learning it.
Sure.
Bring them in and talk to them about that, and then talk to them through an actual official lesson that might get at the ideas underneath long division better. Something like that would be worthwhile.
So for I say almost said customers, but for the parents though, well, I mean, think of them like customers. They have to sell them on this coming into the school after hours. Isn't there any way we got all this technology at our hands?
We can make videos that do the same thing, but it would start relying on parents to watch those videos after hours too. And I think the ability to ask questions is a good thing.
Sure.
Now, if we have reasonable internet connections, we can just do a full virtual classroom thing where people do their own thing at their own house. You can't get group work or talking or back and forths going with that kind of thing, but you can do that.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think we do that same thing when kids are sick too.
The automotive
which is really
industry does
cool.
that too. They will do those sessions, right? Where
Yep.
they're at the dealerships will have, you know,
Yeah.
these people.
We used to do that at schools. They were called ICN rooms. If there are any people listening that remember what those are, right? But they don't exist anymore because the day Skype got invented, ICN rooms were a thing of the past. Skype's free.
Makes
It does the
sense.
same thing.
Well, I think of like even Google Hangouts too, where they were the like kind of not the OGs, but they were one of the OGs back in the day for businesses and group, you know, video messaging and all that kind of stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's options, but like you said, it's really it's probably more beneficial to have them there so they can ask questions. And
I think it would be a worthwhile thing just to get parents involved in the situation.
yeah,
And at least just explain, here's where we are, here's where we would like to go, and here's how we're going to get there.
sure. And obviously not every parent you can reach, which is unfortunate for deadbeat dads like myself. You know, they want nothing to do with my kids. I mean, I don't even know where they're at right now, to be honest. I saw their book bags out there. They made it home. They must have wandered off somewhere. But
It's real cold outside, so you got to be careful of things like that, right?
I made sure they had coats and gloves and stuff like that. Now, can I force them to wear those outside? I mean, no, because I'm not always with them.
Well,
but
you know,
I hope they're smart enough by now. I think they're smart enough by now. They're okay.
You say this thing, and there are teachers who we get railed on once in a while. They're like, "Why didn't my kid pass?" I'm like, "Your kid did nothing."
And
Your
obviously,
kid did nothing.
Obviously, the parent didn't help at all either.
Well, sometimes it's not even that, to be honest with you. Sometimes parents are really trying, and they just can't reach them either. Like, you can take stuff away, sure. You can make them stay after school, sure. But at the end of the day, if the kid doesn't do anything, the kid doesn't do anything.
And do you think it's because of the distractions of the kids, or
I'm not sure it always is. I mean, like, you kind of think back to when you were in high school. Like, come on. So there were just some kids that didn't do that kind of thing.
sure?
And you add in not just hormones anymore, right? But you add in cell phones, you add in looking good on social media and everything else. You got to
Sure.
look good all the time, no matter what. Or you
yeah.
got to look
Yep.
good even when you're home. Take pictures of yourself doing something really cool, right?
Kids really getting in that?
I mean, I
You think
imagine
so?
that they are. But if I was nowadays, I probably would be.
I understand. My oldest, who's 14, and I know you don't have him yet in class, but by the way, if his phone's out in class, you tell him that your dad's going to kick your ass. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't say ass in class.
I know. Pull him off to the side.
I actually even just tell kids, I'm like, welcome to cool today. All right, let's do things.
Yeah, that's cool. But for my oldest, though, I feel like I don't let him have Facebook. He's not on Twitter. I recently let him open up an Instagram just because he got a new phone recently. And I'm like, he's 14 and he's really good. He's on the honor. Lacey posted the honor students.
Yeah, the
so
honor
he's,
roll. Yeah.
he's on like the honor roll. So I'm like, you know what? I'm like, oh, I'm okay with it. He's getting good grades and he does all the things that he's supposed to do. So I'll give him an Instagram. But I don't think he takes pictures actively. I don't think he's that type. I think the only thing that he's basically doing on his phone is watching other people play video games on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing
It's
with
called
that.
Twitch.
Yeah, well, and he doesn't even use that. He knows what Twitch is, and I think he uses that on occasion. But I feel like most of the time, he's the big guys on YouTube and gals. I apologize. The big names on YouTube
Sure, yeah.
that he's watching.
Is it Fortnite only? Fortnite exclusive?
Mostly. It really is. It really is. I mean, no surprise, right? All the parents out there, and that I've talked to other parents on this podcast before, and their kids are, very similar.
Yeah.
I do limit their playtime every day on the PlayStation.
Sure.
They each have their own PlayStations. They're spoiled shits. But yeah, I limit them because the nice thing is, though, I feel like with Instagram, it encouraged creativity with pictures at least. Now, he sees my Instagram, and my Instagram isn't selfies. I'm not a selfie whore. That's why I'm not on Snapchat and all that stuff too. No offense. I know a lot of people are probably going to get pissed at that. But I am not.
Well, I mean, you're being a little derogatory before them, but not crazy. I mean,
Right, exactly. So
you take a lot of selfies on Snapchat. That's a thing you do.
I do not. I'm not on Snapchat, and I won't be. But I guess what I'm saying is I show my son my Instagram. It's like there's pictures of, they're like cool angles and shots and photos. It's not like I'm taking a bunch of pictures of myself. So I hope that he does something similar, and it's artistic for him, and it's something he takes pride in with his pictures, just like we take pride in what we do, whether it's, sweeping that floor in the restroom at McDonald's, or if it's teaching kids important classes before they go off to college.
Well, hopefully anyways, right?
Hopefully. But seriously, if my kids ever, you catch him on his phone in
Sure.
your class.
But to be honest with you, I don't catch a ton of kids on their phones, but I tell them at the start of the year, I'm like, look, here's the deal. you can kind of police yourself on your phone. If you're listening to music, okay, that helps you zone in. That's fine. Now, if you have one earbud in, one earbud out, and you're talking to the person next to you, it's not helping you. It's not helping you get in zone to do some stuff. That's just another distraction, right? But if it's constant, then I'll take their phone away, throw it in a box that's called the distraction box, and then they'll get it back at the end of the block.
Good. You know, if you want to, I have an even more fun way to do this too, because of the technology and stuff. If you see that he's on his phone and like in between, or like you can just text me after class and be like, he's on his phone. You know what I can do on my phone? I can get in there on Verizon and nope.
Lock him down.
No more. We could really have some fun with that. That'd be cool. So, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. No, I really hope that, and he does, I can't remember exactly what his math score is. I'm not going to look it up on the podcast, but he's on the honor roll. So I know he's doing okay. I hope that he takes your class and he takes a lot away from it. So I can tell that Joey, he knows what he's talking about. And I think that math is something that I couldn't do very well. It doesn't mean that my kids couldn't do very well.
Yeah.
And I hope that my kids, both going through you at some point, are definitely going to take something away that they can use, because I'm not going to be able to teach them shit. Obviously, if I'm wrong on Common Core math because I didn't know.
And that's not necessarily Common Core math, but it's modern math. And what we're trying is new ways of teaching math. And it's tough because some people want to be armchair quarterbacks just as much as they want to be armchair teachers, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so you end up with some people that are like, oh, I could have taught this better. Look, I did this thing in 10 seconds. Like, great. Can you explain why you made any of those steps that you just made?
Yeah.
And you can cherry pick, right? You can cherry pick arguments where, hey, I'm going to do this argument and it takes me way less time classically. Like, that's cool. I could do 1,000 minus 999. It would take you way longer to find that the answer is 1 if you learned through the classical method than if you just went with the modern way, right?
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
That is crazy. It's funny. I think about, you're like, you know, this is like your checklist, right? When you first started off with the Common Core thing, we're like giving you this list to get to this point. Now, and to be fair, and that's why I think it really, like, it bugged me when I helped my son and it was right, but it was wrong, is that sometimes you don't have to follow every step in life to get something accomplished. And I'm not saying we need to be lazy and shortcut things, but it's just, I feel like sometimes it's got to be okay. And I know that I'm past that now. I'm just venting at this point for no reason. And it's in the past. It's in the past, right? Like
we all get hung on something.
Like Rafiki
right?
always said, it's in the past. The past does hurt sometimes, but you know, you got to move on from it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, Lion King and
Rafiki was real bright, so
he was pretty awesome too. He was like wise old baboon or monkey or
I think baboon.
Yeah,
he had the red butt.
He did have the red butt. Anyway, so moving on from math to robotics. I'm really excited to talk to you about robotics because I don't have the slightest idea of where to even start on that. I do know from pop culture past, I think about battle bots or something like that, you know.
Everyone brings it up.
And honestly, that's all I can think about, though.
Oh, yeah.
So can you explain to me what robotics is for you as a teacher?
So at the high school level, what we do is the kids will, we get a new thing every year, right? And the new thing isn't released until about the second week of September. And so we'll get this thing, and the kids will look at it, and they'll say, okay, here's what would be the best way to make that thing happen. Mm-hmm. For example, this year we got Mars rover, basically.
Now explain, what do you mean by you've got that? Is that what you're creating?
So what we it's not a creation thing. the field is set up, and they have this field, and they say, hey, here's how you score points on this field. Here's what you do. You go and you build the thing, and then you make that thing work, right?
Okay.
So
the rover,
whatever robot it is.
Sure.
In this case, it was a Mars rover thing. So they had to land off of the rover, which is a couple of feet off the ground. They land off this thing. They had to drive and drop off a team marker at a depot, which is a marked place on the field.
How far away?
About 3 feet, I'd say, maybe 2.5, 3 feet. Except all this is autonomous. So you have to program the robot to know how to do these things. The robot goes and does these things, and then the autonomous mode is over, right? That's about 30 seconds. The driver controlled mode then is the next couple of minutes. So the kids will grab a controller and
That's
they'll.
what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And so they'll grab a controller and they'll move some stuff around. So in this particular instance, they had to grab things off of the field and put them back in the rover, which I again said was a couple of feet off the ground.
Not too far away. Yep.
So they had to reach up and they probably had to extend their arm a little bit because there's some size requirements. They have to be 18 by 18 by 18. And they have to be under 42 pounds. Under 42 pounds is crazy easy. The 18 by 18 by 18, little more difficult to do, to be honest with you, because of the arm and the tower that you have to use to lower yourself down, right? Because the arm isn't necessarily going to do that stuff for you. So you end up building this thing and you kind of design it from scratch and you go to the first meet and then you find out that some of the things you wanted to build aren't going to work for you. So you go back to the drawing board and you rebuild and you bring it to the second meet and it works better, and you bring it to the third meet, and there's usually 4 meets and a regionals competition. And so this year we made it to the finals of the regional competition and we lost, which is the farthest we've made it so far. And this is the third year. We lost to a couple of teams. So there's
in our conference that we're in?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's always like
fair enough.
11 or 12 teams in each of them, and they're all within about an hour travel of each other. So
I was wondering if it was in our like sports conference.
No, whatever. It's not quite the same sports conference, but it's the robotics conference. So it depends. Not every school has a robotics competition or a robotics program, and not every team is part of a school. So there's a 4-H team that's part of our conference. There's a couple of other things, right? And some schools have multiple robotics teams.
Oh, if they're big enough, obviously.
Yes. Yep. Like Solon has 2 teams.
They're that big.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Solon's a pretty good sized school district. I think. Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. And then Center Point Urbana has 2 teams. Most of the Cedar Rapids schools have a couple of teams.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So at least a couple at Cedar Rapids level. And so that stuff's really cool. Sometimes, so there's a few different varieties of this. FTC is what we do, First Tech Challenge, and that's a little bit lower level. FRC, First Robotics Challenge, does a lot of like welding and stuff, where this is where you get into kind of the more BattleBots-y type stuff. They'll build all of their parts, they'll weld things that they need to weld, they'll piece things together, and they'll basically from scratch do an entire thing.
Are you overlooking all these different projects or these different FTCs?
There's different stuff. So FTC is one thing, and that's what I described. FRC is this other thing where you do some welding and some other things, and that's a little higher level.
I get that, but for which ones are you overseeing?
FTC.
FTC.
Yes,
okay, that's what I was curious. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were all of them.
No,
or just
sorry,
like
I get excited about this stuff, so I can't just keep going.
Well, I'm excited too, so I want to know. I'm like, wait.
Yeah. So anyways, they do all these things. They build all this stuff. They do the thing, and then they program the robot to do whatever it needs to do. Right. So I need to teach them some programming levels, some building, some how things work, and you really need to give them the chance to fail. So the team is not teacher driven. The team is mostly, hey kids, what do you want to do? What do I need to bring in, like an engineer to talk to you about things? Do I need to bring in programmers to talk? Like, do I need to call people up to support you in the thing that you want to do, or are you just going to be fine? You can get that thing built and you can go and do stuff, right?
Obviously, they can't do it on their own.
Not always, but we have a class at the high school level over here, and I teach the class, and the class is much more directed. I'll start and I'll teach them programming, and I'm going to teach them like straight up, here's how loops work, here's how variables work, here's how all of this stuff works. The first robot they build is like from instructions. It's just a booklet of instructions. Here's how you build your first robot. Put this thing together. And then we program it to do super basic stuff. At the start of the year, it's just, hey, when it touches a wall, turn left, stop when you see red. That's it. That's the whole first project. And then after that, once we get to the end of the year, we're doing some like almost competition level fields, and we're doing almost competition level stuff where it's like, hey, I need to do a 30-second autonomous mode where you do the following things. Then you'll
like
pick
to
up,
drop 3 feet away and then pick it up.
You'll drop down, you'll move forward, you'll throw your idle down, you'll drive over to this area and you'll stop. You have 30 seconds to do that. And then you'll pick up your controller, and then I need you to do the following thing in controlled mode, right?
Is there a time limit?
At the class level, I don't give them much time limits because I need them to just be doing the things, right? At the competition level, hopefully the kids who have gone through the class are like, okay, here are the things that don't work. And if something breaks, here's the following troubleshooting things we're going to go through, because this is the easiest thing to fix, followed by harder and harder and harder things to fix. Same thing you do with your computer at home, right?
Okay.
Where it's like, hey, I built a computer and my screen doesn't work. And the first thing you do is, did I plug everything in?
Yep.
Second thing is, did I actually plug everything in?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you start getting into harder things, right? And I'm not great at this yet either. But teaching kids how to be better at these things is really cool.
It's got to be rewarding, I'm sure.
They'll come up with some really, really, really cool ideas that you were like, I would have never, ever, ever thought about doing it that way. But that's really neat. That's cool. That's cool that you thought about that thing.
It's always cool to like, I don't want to say steal from somebody else in that regards, but I mean, you're learning at the same time. Me as an educator too. I'm trying to think of a fun way to talk about McDonald's again, but basically I'm not a teacher like Joey is, but I'm kind of a teacher of sorts is what I am.
We all are in something.
We are. I mean, I kind of been for a profession too, in some regards, called a trainer or a coach or a facilitator. I do all kinds of things,
Sure.
but it's always fun to steal from, other people or coworkers and use that, in your own way later down the line too. So it's got to be fun. You're teaching kids. It's rewarding because they're learning, but also at the same time, you're getting experience too. And you can adjust and steal things for when you're teaching in the future too.
You basically described the entirety of teaching, by the way.
I know, but I think that's what excites me the most though, is just, being able to do that. And, me being able to learn every day. I tell my kids, so every day at the dinner table, I ask them, so what did you learn today? Because I always want them to at least find something new that they've learned that they can share with other people. I get Lacey involved too, but anyway, I don't know. Anyway, but so I learn a lot every day too, not just for what I have to learn to train and present for when I'm teaching, but I pick up little random things that sometimes go over my head too. It's so much fun. And I think that's one of the best parts about being that teacher that you said. It covers it, but it's true. That's what it is.
Yep. Fortunately, I'm in a career where most of us, and by us I mean teachers, are willing to share whatever with each other. We're like, hey,
that's
you
awesome.
thought this lesson plan was cool? Here you go. Here's the whole thing. Go and do something cool and just let me know how it worked out for you. Or, hey, here's stuff that I use. Let me know how you use it instead, because I'd be curious about knowing that thing.
It's the same way with my position too. Thankfully, we're all very much so like reaching out to each other and getting answers to questions that are harder to find, but also at the same time saying, hey, how are you doing this? Or it's so awesome. So it's very, very similar actually as to kind of what we do. Again, I'm not an actual teacher with a degree or anything like that for teaching or but it is fun though. So we've got mathematics and algebra 1 to pre-calc that I don't even want to.
So it's algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2.
Okay.
I don't teach geometry, algebra 2. That's the other teacher.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
And then they come back to me for pre-calc or stats. If they take pre-calc, sometimes they'll take calculus the next year if their junior is taking pre-calc. And so we'll have kids who double up on math so they can get calc their senior year. And we'll have kids who are doing algebra 1, 8th grade, and then they'll be doing calc their senior year as well.
I followed most of that, but the nice thing is when I record these, I can go back and re-listen to what he said. So I don't have to go ask him the next time. So what did you say again? What was that order? And how does that get you to this next level? So again, one of the great things about these podcasts is I learn so much, not just on the spot, but thankfully being recorded, I'm going back and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So mathematics aside, robotics we've talked about, and I want to say TPC. Is that what it was?
FTC.
FTC. And then what was the other
FRC is the other one. So it's first robotics competition.
Okay.
Which is a little higher level and requires like welding and some other stuff. We don't do that. It's a little bit too high level.
Okay.
We do FTC, which is first tech challenge.
That's what I'm trying to remember. The one you do. I think it's cool. The BattleBots style one that I referenced.
And it's not quite BattleBots. I mean, they still don't fight each other, but you'll have to do all of the welding and putting together and everything.
Joey, I only care about what you do. That's all I care.
You know how often I hear that? Man, I just
I don't want to just jump right ahead to the BattleBots styled stuff. I care about what you do, and that's why we're here too.
People do ask about BattleBots super frequently, though. And I'm like, it would be amazing. So to be fair, if you do the robotics team or the robotics class over in Durant, and you eventually then go home to your garage, if you learn how to do welding, which I believe we also do some of that at Durant, you just go home to your garage. If you buy the parts, you can put together a robot and do that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds super fucking complicated for somebody who has no idea what they're doing. So instead, I could just go buy a Lego kit and just like have fun with that instead.
You can do that too. I mean, it's fine.
The problem is that I have, and you probably understand this too. We have so many hobbies and things like that. So music takes up a lot of our time. I'm speaking for both of us, even though I don't want to say for him.
No, it is. I mean,
it takes a lot of time, and then it's like
3 bands is a big time commitment. So
it is. And at one point, I had the same situation where I was in so many different cover bands at once. Thankfully, I'm down now a little bit, which is nice. But like with kids for me, and
Sure.
then trying to get home, we work on dinner. Whether it's me or Lacey or me and Lacey, and then by the time that gets done, I mean, obviously Lacey wants to spend some time with me, so I don't think there'd be any extra
I don't know
time.
why she would want to, but
I don't know either.
thank God she's slumming it a little bit, right?
I know, right? I feel like there's no time for robotics. I'd love to, like the inner geek in me, and I don't mean that in any bad way, but
Why would you say geek is a bad thing?
Well, I'm just like, I'm excited about that stuff, but I just don't have any time for it. One of the most fun things I had was building like a soapbox, not soapbox,
The derby
the derby stuff with my
for Boy Scouts.
When my youngest was in Boy Scouts
Yeah.
and Muscatine, I built one with him, and he still got it on his nightstand there. He did pretty good. I mean, he
Yeah.
didn't win, but he did pretty well with it.
It's one of the things my dad and I did when I was younger too. I'm actually an Eagle Scout, so
Oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
I volunteer some time with the local
right.
troop.
Because we talked about it when we were camping that one time. I remember.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. What was it? The mess food you were making and stuff like that too. I'm like having
There's a bunch
flashbacks.
of stuff, yeah. But you can do like a mountain man breakfast, which is what I always called it when I was in Scouts. So that's what I keep calling it. But it's amazing, and you just make all of these kinds of foods, and great. It's great.
That camping weekend was kind of a blur because I went through a bottle of Balvenie 14-year-old Caribbean cask.
Is that how you say that? Is Balvenie?
I've learned that that's the correct way to
I've always
pronounce
had
it.
Balvenie.
Yeah, so I learned that Balvenie. I've learned a lot in the past like year from like studying and watching these videos from people that actually know what they're talking about.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm like, oh wait, how does that rewind a little bit? Okay, Balvenie. Okay.
It's like, so I said when I learned how to play bass, the first one that I came across that was like custom shop or anything was a Lakeland bass.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I always said Lackland.
I did too.
Because I didn't know.
I did too.
But it's Lakeland. It's Lakeland bass.
I
so.
learned that, yes. Thankfully from my Sweetwater rep that I buy a lot of my stuff from, including my, we didn't even talk about music, man. There's so much we could talk about, but I have my Ernie Ball, my 5-string. I remember before I bought that, I asked
There's a 5-string bass?
my Ernie Ball Music Man is on the end there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So-
is it a double humbucker?
No, only single.
Single H? Does it have the switch or not the switch?
Yeah, it's got a switch. I didn't have a desire for the double just because it's a secondary instrument for me. So I'm
So
like,
why did you want the switch?
it was on that one, and it was a neck
You
through
just
model.
happened to have it?
Well, a neck through model has the switch though.
Oh,
too.
okay, so you wanted the neck through more than you cared about what the
bolt-on.
switch was. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and
See, I don't care about the switch. I'm
right,
like,
it's in the one position. all
look,
the time.
I'm never going to switch it.
I used to be like that all the time on guitar. So my electric guitar is the 3-way toggle switch because I've mostly been, I had toggle switches like that, and I've always typically let it be in the bridge position. But I've learned through the. I'm sure that was caught on video or on the,
at least on camera.
Yes. But I've learned though, and the more I've played and I progress, and I've found that I use the toggle switch more, but on the bass though I don't, because for that reason, right? You got one pickup. It's like you're adjusting the tone knob more than you're adjusting anything.
To be fair here, when I started out on a 5-string, I started on a Ibanez BTB 405 QM, which just means quilted maple. Those last two, right?
Sure, yeah.
The BTB style is really freaking cool. They don't make I don't know if they make the BTB 405s anymore.
I don't know. I know
I don't know
Ibanez,
if they make the BTBs anymore.
Ibanez is the most complicated company for model names.
They do,
got
yes, because it's all just letters and numbers.
How the fuck do you remember that? So I used to play Ibanez a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the early days. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying though, the Lakeland thing, right? So when I asked my Sweetwater rep that I've been buying thousands of dollars worth of gear over the years, and
At
I'm like,
least.
hey, oh my God. I'm like, off camera, we'll talk about something else. But
Yeah, look, we're never in the black as a musician.
never. We do it,
It doesn't matter how
it.
much. It doesn't matter how much you play. You're never in the black.
Exactly. And I'm all right with that. But when I was about ready to buy a 5-string, I'm like, hey, Dennis is my Sweetwater guy. I'm like, hey, what bass should I look at? I think I want an Ernie Ball Music Man because I love the look. I for the music
They're
that
expensive.
I like. I know. But he's like, you should check out these Lakelands. And I talked to him on the phone. He's like, oh, is that how you pronounce them?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now we've come full circle here.
Yes, exactly. Tie back to the Lakeland. So, but yeah, so that's how I learned, because he told me. But yeah, Lakelands, I never really liked the style of them when I look at them, because I'm kind of a hard rock guy.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
You know, a lot of the bands, bass players, they use that.
I think they look really pretty, by the way.
They look nice.
They look amazingly good.
Not for me, though.
I'm not a jazz person, but if I was, I would look into Lakeland immediately.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's it. You know, for you, I love your Ernie Ball Music Man, your 4-string.
Yeah.
Love it to death.
So I had a 5-string at one point, and I was mentioning I played a BTB 405 to start. I played a double humbucker, 5 selector switch levels pickups, 5-string Stingray, and I was like, I literally set this thing into one position, and I set these knobs into one position, and I call it good. I need a 4-string. Don't need 5 anymore.
Yep.
And I don't need the pickup switch, and I only need 1 pickup.
Yeah.
I don't need any of these things. But when you're young, you don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know any of those things.
You're like, oh, 2 pickups, that's awesome, right?
Right.
And everything.
5 selector switches, 2 pickups. Sure, I'll use all of those things. You use none of those things. You use none of them.
And the funny thing is, for me as a guitar player, I started. It went the opposite way for me. So again, like when I was younger and playing, is like it was always bridge pickup, even though with 2 humbuckers. So I never touched it. But what I've evolved to for guitar, I don't know if you know much about the guitar side of things.
I know some about the Ernie Ball side.
Guitars in general, for electric guitars. So
Yeah,
all I'm saying is, if you look at, and it's off camera, obviously we can't see this right now, but off camera, a 3-way selector, see how it's kind of in the middle position on my single cut PRS?
Yeah.
So I leave it there all the time, except for if I'm playing a lead part, bridge position.
Yeah.
To get that cut, right? And then I bring it up for rhythm. And then if I'm playing an acoustic kind of style, then I bring it up to that neck position. Bass, it doesn't matter if it's my PRS SE, that is I feel like that's a Kingfisher, or I can't remember which model it is. It's an SE.
I didn't know PRS made basses, to be honest with you.
They do. They make super expensive.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone use a PRS bass,
because they don't make many of them. They don't make many of them. They make very small numbers of them. The SE models the SE model that I have is a Korean made one. That's their lower Korean made one.
Right, it's like Squire.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
But that one though has 2 pickups. I only use the one.
You only flip it to 1 and you call it good anyway.
Exactly.
So why not just leave it there?
So it's a kind of an opposite direction I went for guitar to bass, but I'm with you on bass. I will tell you though, BRS does make an American-made bass. I guess the guy's name is Gary Granger. I don't know who he is.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
He's some probably jazz legend or some shit like that.
I believe that he's a huge bassist. I don't know.
I don't know him either.
I don't know everyone's name any more than you probably know every guitarist's name that exists, right?
I don't, right? Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is PRS, even though you don't hear about them, they make super expensive, $4,000 basses.
Sure. Yeah. I've got a couple of expensive basses. So
getting back to your Ernie Ball, I love your 4-string. I'm a big Ernie Ball Music Man fan.
Sure.
In fact, what I'm going to end up doing is that SC PRS I will replace with probably another Ernie Ball Music Man.
Sure.
Actually,
so if you're really, really excited about Ernie Ball, you should look into bongos.
I've seen the bongos.
They look so cool.
Did you know that BMW helped design those?
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah.
Actually, they look cool.
They do look
cool.
cool.
They look cool.
Yeah.
And that's one of the basses that I'm like, that would be cool. That'd be cool to own one of those. That'd be neat. I don't know if I'd ever use it, but it would be amazing to own one of those basses.
It looks super cool. And if anybody hasn't seen it, I'll try to link maybe down below in the description, but it's like a rounded bottom and like these stubby
they got a cut on them, and they're really you have to look at them. You really have to just look at one of those basses.
Oh yeah.
And there are people who are like, that looks disgusting, and there are people who are like, yeah. How you doing?
I think it's because we see so many styles and designs that are kind of blending together at this point, right? So it's nice for me to see something kind of different too.
Yeah.
And even though I'm primarily a guitar player, I still appreciate a good bass. And a timeless design like a Music Man Stingray, I'll always love that. But their bongo looks pretty cool too.
I've got to be honest. I love how music or guitars sound. And I don't always care what they look like.
Yeah.
If they look pretty on top of sounding amazing, I'm like, yeah, that's really where it's at, right? But every guitarist kind of has their own look and their own vibe and their own everything else, and that's neat. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And does that fit your style, and that's amazing. Can you play that thing? Can you play the hell out of it? I don't care if it costs $110 or if it costs $1,010.
Sure.
I don't care if it costs $10,010, right? Depending on what you're looking at. If you can play that thing's amazing.
Yeah. I'm not deserving of the instruments I own. Just be clear. Whether it's the Ernie Ball Music Band or the Paul Reed Smith guitar that we were just referencing, or my Taylor acoustics that I played over the years, I don't deserve to play any of them. But McDonald's has a really good 401k program that I dipped into.
At least a couple of times at this point, right?
You pay huge tax payments, or
You do. I know.
It's like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, it's going to take a lot of years of sweeping floors to catch up.
Well, you know what? To be fair, if you love those things, you do those things. So,
at least the nice thing is, in my position, is that none of and they're all paid for.
Yeah.
So it's like they're mine at least.
Yeah.
So
and you know what? I love that thing. I love when I buy a bass. I'm like, this is mine. This is mine forever. I can do whatever the hell I want to it. And people give me shit sometimes because I'll put stickers and things on them. And I'm like,
you want it yours?
I'm like, that's exactly what I say. I'm like, fuck you. It looks good.
Exactly. It's kind of like, it's like we talked earlier about whiskey. And by the way,
I was just gonna pour some more, but
you're my guest.
Well, I was going to anyways.
There's no wrong way to drink a whiskey, and there's no wrong way to play your instruments or to sticker them up.
So to be fair here, I would like to mention. So I play bass, but I play it.
We didn't even talk about that. Yeah.
When I learned bass, I learned bass on like punk rock stars, right? And it wasn't necessarily like 60s and 70s punk rock, which is most people talk about punk rock. It's pop punk stuff, right? Which is fine.
Give me an example.
It's fine. So you look at like Blink-182. You look at MXPX, Green Day. You look at any of these bands here in the 90s, 2000s. Those are the bands that I like cut my teeth on. Those are the bands I was like, yeah, I could do that, I think. And so I went through and I did those things, and they all played their bass slung fucking low as shit.
That's
all of them. That's what it was. That was the punk rock look, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I looked back, and even the more I looked back on the bands that I was interested in, because what Green Day Blink-182 came from Green Day, who came from like the Black Flag stuff, who came from like, and you keep looking back, and all of these people are just lower and lower and lower slung, and I was like, well, I've got long enough arms, I can probably do that thing, right?
Yeah.
So I just assumed that was how you play bass. I assumed that what you did was you just slung it low as shit, and you played that thing.
Yeah.
I have learned since then, right? I've learned that's not how you necessarily play bass. I've looked at some jazz musicians like you. I've looked at like Marcus Miller and Victor Wooten are two very notable examples, and those two play their instruments way up high, but they don't usually stand. They don't always stand up. They play. Paul McCartney will play like fucking up at his tits, right? Like it was right here, and he's like, yeah, 100%,
because he can't see.
I don't. He played it that way when he was in the Beatles.
Oh, okay. I figured he just old enough.
Look back at some of the Beatles, and he's playing at like belly. He's playing like belly level, like he's playing here. And now he plays like he's old, so he's got it right up here, because I think his arm just looks like this nowadays. So
it's like muscle memory. It's just it's stuck.
So no, you know what? You get used to a thing, and you just keep playing that thing, right?
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would have it played low and slung low when I could play parts, and I'd flip that thing up when I had to play like either up high or super complicated moving around.
It's showy when you're doing that, flipping it up like Slash or some shit.
You're exactly right. And you do crazy things sometimes. I think people just like watching that sometimes. Yeah. And I've had it described. My left hand will move around, and I do some really, like, because I can do some really wide grabs on stuff.
Yeah.
And so people will be like, it just looks like something's like a spider moving around or something on the fretboard there. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. That's what I do. That's my thing.
Bass fills. That's called bass fills.
So I learned. And fun fact, we're gonna tangent here, right, real quick. I learned bass on an Epiphone, an old Epiphone bass, and I don't even know if I could tell you what model it was.
What?
Look it up. It's fine. My uncle was selling a bunch of music equipment, or getting rid of some stuff, and my mom. I grew up in a reasonably poor family, and my mom was going to sell them for some cash, right? And I was like, in, I don't know, 7th grade.
You're gonna sell your bass for cash?
No, sell a bass from my uncle for cash.
Okay.
And it was fine. It was okay. It was a thing. It was not a problem. But I looked at them and they were in the dining room one day and I was like, can I keep those things?
Yeah. Why
Like, can I keep them? I didn't know at the time that it was a thing, right? And it was not like a Gibson Grabber. It's not. That's not what we're looking at.
Familiar with
here.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. No. It was like a wood slab, and it looked freaking cool. And it probably sold for. It should have probably sold for way more than I sold it for. Yeah, I know.
Anything looking? I mean,
I know. I'm looking over here, and
that's what the TV's for.
I got it. It's fine. But if I look over there and I can't talk, all right, fine.
Okay,
I'll
fair
just
enough.
turn the thing.
You can move that mic
All
around
right,
all you want.
so no, so you're talking like Explorer bases and stuff, right? No, this thing looks like a coffee table, like a wood slab
How
coffee
old
table.
was it?
I don't know. But Epiphone I knew was not a super fancy name, right?
Yeah, no, right.
And it looked like kind of like a Gibson Grabber, but like a cheap knockoff Gibson Grabber that only had one pickup position, right? Because a Grabber could move, and that was the big deal about the Gibson Grabber.
Yeah, yep.
And so what I ended up with this bass and a guitar, and I just dicked around on guitar, right? I fucked around. I was in 7th, 8th grade. I had no idea what I was doing.
But like the bass direction.
So the bass kind of sat there for a little while, and I kind of played around. I played around on the bass a little bit too, and I played around on the thing. And I played them both through a keyboard amp. It was. I had no idea.
PV?
I didn't know. It was not PV actually. It was a. I'm not gonna remember it. I'll let you know later. I know. I'm gonna leave you hanging.
That's okay. I played through a PV keyboard amp on my first guitar rig setup.
Yeah. No, mine was not a PV. It was probably cheaper than that, to be honest with you. Like if you think like 70s keyboard amps, it's probably something like that. That's what I'm saying, because I don't even know what the brands are at that level. But they were something like that, right? Where it was just kind of like a not even a tilt back. It looks like a wedge. It looks like a wedge with dials on the top of it.
with dials on the top.
Yeah,
nice.
it did. And so I played this thing, and I played the hell out of it. And I played guitar, and I learned a shitty guitar riffs, because that's what you do when you are just dicking around. When you own a guitar, not when you're a guitarist, right?
Right.
It's different. You'll just fuck around, and you'll play whatever the hell you want. You'll do some things. And so I learned like Nirvana, and I learned Seven Nation Army, because that was when I was growing up.
Which is ironic because it's on a bass instead of a guitar.
Seven Nation Army is on a guitar. You're right.
I mixed that up. Fun fact, I know I said that wrong, but I showed Lacey actually one time too. I'm like, hey, check this out. It's actually with an octave pedal on a guitar.
It is, yeah.
Instead of a bass.
It is, and it's really freaking cool.
Yeah.
So that's one of the songs we do with one of the bands, with Hard 7 specifically.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting a shit ton of fuzz onto a bass, and I'm like, it sounds pretty damn close, so it's really freaking cool.
Good enough.
Anyways, so I'm playing guitar, right?
Yeah.
And it's a Dan Electro guitar.
Oh yeah.
And it's Dan Electro. It's the like shiny like glitter black. It looks cool as shit. It has a tweed guitar case. It's awesome. It's awesome. I loved it. And so a friend of mine in chemistry class, specifically, I remember this because he looked over at me and was like, you play guitar? I was like, yeah, I guess technically, yes, I own a guitar.
Yeah.
And he was like, you want to play bass for this band that I'm putting together? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. And so I switched immediately over to bass, and I started learning all the things. I learned Seven Nation Army. I learned Blink-182. I learned all these. I just started fucking around on bass. And I was like, you know what? This is where it's at.
And then you stuck there.
This is the thing,
it's
right?
funny how being in a band, it's like it made you think, that's it. This is my instrument. I'm locked in.
I wasn't even actually officially done band practice. I just switched over to bass, and I was like, no.
You're practicing.
This is it. This. I love this thing. I love feeling the groove more than I love doing the solos.
Was that the Epiphone bass again then?
It was the Epiphone bass.
Okay.
Yeah. And it literally looked like a coffee. Like if you take the wood grain of your desk right here and you just cut it out to be like a bass, that's what it was.
That's awesome.
The thing was terrible. It was terrible. I had pictures of myself playing it on Facebook. If you look really far back, and I have super terrible high school hair and everything, but it's awful. And it's so cool to look back and be like, yeah, that's what I learned on. And the second thing I picked up, the one official bass I bought for myself, was an Ibanez BTB 405 QM, and it was this blue, like watery looking bass that just was amazing. It looked amazing. And it sounded great. And I bought that for about $400. And yeah, it looks like that, but it's like water blue. And I don't know if you could ever make it look like that. But it is so if you scroll down a little bit there on the right, the second one in, that one right there, it looks like that thing.
Awesome.
I mean, pretty close to.
Were the saddles on the bridge like that too?
Yeah,
it was like the
that's actually
what style is that?
I don't know, but I would love to find any other bass that has those saddle styles, and I would buy it right now. Second.
I feel like I've seen that on guitar before, but I can't even remember what brand it is.
It looks so pretty.
I mean, the guitar looks great. You know what I noticed the first thing when I look at that bass is how predominant the upper horn is.
Yeah.
On that, is that like is that keep it less pressure on your neck?
I think it is a balancing issue, yes, because basses are a little heavier than you know what. To be honest, I don't know if basses are a little heavier than guitars. I was just talking to a guitarist friend of mine. He's like, "Oh, this guitar is like 10 or 11 pounds," and I was like,
"That one's in a heavy one. I'll have you pick it up."
How heavy is that?
It's close to 10 pounds.
Yeah. Well, he was like, "This is an 11 or 12 pound guitar." I'm like, 11? Jesus, that's insane. My basses are 11 or 12 pounds.
Just be clear. I don't know if there's any guitars that are 11 or 12 pounds, but I mean, they usually peak out around 10 pounds.
Oh, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it was.
Is it a single cut guitar you're talking about?
I don't know if he is. I just am mentioning this.
You don't have to mention names,
thing,
but
so.
I feel like he may be a little misunderstood.
He may not be. It may be just a cheap guitar that's pretty heavy.
Usually the cheap ones aren't the ones that are.
Really?
Yeah, I've played some cheap ones. Like, yeah, that's definitely not the heavy ones.
Well, fair enough then.
I guess, and we could talk about that more off camera, but I guess what I'm saying is that like that Ernie Ball Music Man, that 5-string.
Yeah.
Fucking,
it's heavy. Yeah,
it's
that's
heavy.
why. Okay, so I had a friend tell me earlier today. She was talking about playing bass, and she was like, "I got a bass strap that was an old seatbelt." I'm like, "Oh my god, you know how heavy that thing would be?"
Yeah.
You have any idea? She's playing like church music, right? So
Sure.
you can sit down
praise
yeah, right. And at worst, you're playing for like an hour, right?
Sure.
But I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, Jesus, you know how awful that would be after 4 hours to play that thing? I play straps that are like 3 inches wide. And I'm like, you know what? I want to distribute that thing. I want to distribute that all over my shoulder.
You got the padding and stuff, the thick padding?
I don't. So the one that I have doesn't even hold anymore. So if you actually would go to pull it up and you play some songs, it'll just drop itself back down too. I've had it long enough that's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's kind of awesome. But it also means that other people can't actually play the bass.
It makes it difficult. Yeah.
Because I played, again, as I mentioned, you can't get belt rash because I play it lower than my belt.
Sure, yeah. Understandable.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be interested to get your take. I use the same guitar strap on all my electrics and basses, and you may have noticed they're all matching over there. But it's Reunion Blues.
Sure.
Is the brand, and they
Yeah.
make a nice wool strap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's super comfortable, but I don't know if you like that style or not.
The bass strap I use most frequently is actually one that has like this single. It's a wide strap and it's got black stripes and then a single white like shiny stripe. So if you shine flashlight on it, it sparkles
and stuff. Oh, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And it's like 67 inches long or something, 65 inches long. The thing's insane.
Oh, okay.
It's a human being. It's a human being long, and I just strap it over top of myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I play it as low as possible, and it never, ever, ever moves beyond that.
Yeah, that's cool. I'd be interested to see your opinion, though, what you think of that style of strap, though, that I'm using. It works, and the reason why I keep using it on basses because my single cut and my Paul Reed Smiths that I've owned in the past, the American-made ones,
sure.
They're definitely on the heavier side. So it's fairly comfortable. The wool is actually, even though it's a traditional size width. It actually doesn't feel bad on the bass. When I stand and I play that 5-string, it doesn't affect me at all.
That's awesome.
I'm just curious what your opinion would be too.
I don't ever judge. If you can handle doing a small strap for 4 hours, that's awesome. But I looked at the strap this person told me.
I'm not a bass player though. Remember on a stage,
I know.
I just jam around here, so it's no big deal. Yeah.
And you hold it long enough, and you're like, no. I know. I'm not going to do this anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to Mike Ritchie down at Ritchie's Sound and Lights out of Muscatine, right?
Yeah.
The guy's amazing, but I was like, you have these straps, right? And it's great that you have these straps. Do you have longer straps at all?
He's like, what?
Well, so he's one that has come up on stage and played my bass because Facing Time is good friends with a couple of other people.
It's the whole Muscatine click thing.
It is just one of those things, right? But it was, so he came up on stage and he played my bass and it was down near his fucking knees. And I was like, I looked at him and I'm like, he is not comfortable playing that bass at all. He has no idea what he's doing up there. And I asked him after he played, I was like, hey, how was that? How was playing those 2 songs that you got up there? It's like, I'm never going to play that bass again. I can't.
How low it is, yeah.
Right. He can't do it. And I'm like, I'm semi-lucky, right? I swam in high school. I have long arms. So I just caveman that shit. And it's fine. It's not a problem.
I run into the same problem with mine. I think the problem is with me is that because of how tall I am and how low I run mine, a lot of people, when they grab my guitar, they're like, holy cow, why is it so low? It doesn't feel low to me because I think it's just because of how tall I am. That must be it.
You look at like Cliff Burton, and Cliff Burton's playing his bass really freaking low. And so I looked at idols like that when I was younger, and I was like, hey, I can play like those guys.
Sure.
That's just where you put your bass. Like that's where those things happen. And so, okay, I'll put my bass there.
Yep. And
so what I ended up doing was just putting my bass down here, and then I learned how to do that, and I never went away from doing it. So nowadays I just play a bass strap that's slung so low no one else can ever play it.
Sure.
And to be fair, there's like one bassist in every 7th crowd.
True.
And there's fewer than those that are going to be ballsy enough to come up and say, can I play your bass for a song?
And even though there's a lot more guitar players, half of them, no offense, may not be worth a damn to play anyway on stage.
It doesn't matter. If a person comes up often enough to me and says, hey, can I play that song? Can I play the song? Can I play the song? I'll be like, all right, you know what? Here's your bass. What song do you want to play? Cool. Do you know that song? Yes. Good enough for me. I'm gonna go get a beer. I'm gonna get a couple of shots. I'm gonna hang out with a friend of mine. Here's this bass.
Gives you a break.
That's exactly what I say. I tell the band, I'm like, hey band, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this thing next set list. So this is what's happening now. And most of the bands I'm in would be like, fuck it, all right, fine, let's do that. Yeah. And fuck it. This is a party. This is a good time.
It's supposed to be fun.
We're having fun. And by the time you get to the 3rd set, people are mostly sloshed anyway. So you're okay. You can do some crazy shit that people are like, what is happening right now?
If you're having fun, they're going to have fun.
As long as the rest of the band is there, you're set.
Yep.
And most of the time, the rest of the band is there. And I play with bands that are a high enough caliber that everyone else is on.
That's good. That helps.
Yeah, well, it does. You're right. I've played with bands in the past that are not that, and it's
me too.
It's been most of those bands didn't make it out of the garage. To be honest with you, there have been some great bands I played with that didn't make it out of the garage.
Yeah,
and that's too bad.
It is too bad. Sometimes though, it's nice to be able to do something you want to do, even though it doesn't actually bear any fruit. I
agree. Yeah. I played with a band in college that was called Kindergarten Senior, K-12, right? And this band was literally a garage band. We played in I shouldn't say literally, right? We played in a garage. Sometimes we played in a basement. Sometimes we played in an upstairs bedroom sometimes. And an upstairs bedroom was probably about as big as this place is. So like 8 by 10, 10 by 10 maybe.
Sure.
And the guitarist liked to turn it up to 11. So it's the first time.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first time. And I was like 20, 19. And I was like, you know what? I need to buy myself good earbuds. And I went and I spent $180 on custom molded earbuds that cut 15 decibels off the sound.
Nice. Fucking guitar players, am I right?
I tell you, those motherfuckers.
Guilty. No, the nice thing about what I've done for practice recently, I've encouraged when I'm in band practices, I have a jam hub that I bought.
Yeah.
I don't even think they make them anymore, to be honest. But I bought one.
You're showing your age again.
Common Core.
That's at least the second time.
RC Cola.
RC Cola.
Yes. Tie back. RC
That's
Cola.
at least the second time here. I mean,
Anyway, so Jam Hub though, have you ever experienced anything like that, or an in-ear monitor type of
I know
setup?
I have in-ear monitors actually for one of the bands I'm a part of.
Okay.
Unless Facing Time's going that direction. I think
Sure.
the Love Dogs won't. They're just straight up party rock, slam it loud, slam it hard, slam it good, right?
I appreciate that live, but when it comes to practices and it's just a group of guys that are chilling, rehearsing, or getting through
Sure,
the music,
yeah.
it's so nice to have something that you can put headphones on like we have now. You're controlling the individual volume for each person, so you're not getting
Sure.
overwhelmed with the guitar player. Those guitar players. But
I know, I agree. Especially if they're running sound for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, damn it.
The nice thing is I've got that Roland drum kit too. So
what do you have? Which drum kit?
25 kV.
Yeah, see, I have the 11 kV. And honestly, that thing is the biggest ear saver that exists on this planet.
Huge. And that's why the Jam Hub's cool too.
Yeah.
Because if you've got, even if it's not using my Roland kit, like at another, for like Blackout, the band, one of the bands I'm in, we go over there. That drummer has a hybrid Pearl kit.
Yeah.
It's electric /
Yep.
I think it's got like a bigger kick kind of weird thing. But
Sure.
anyway, we plugged in that in the past. It's so nice because everybody controls what they want to hear, and we still get practice done, and we're not walking out of there with a shitload of gear. We're
Sure.
not carrying cabinets and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
out of his basement, and everybody can
Doesn't
hear.
look like you're robbing the place.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's also your ears aren't ringing at the end of it too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Which is amazing.
Yeah.
If I can get done with a show and my ears aren't ringing, that's a fantastic fucking show, right?
I kind of agree with you. If it was a really good, monumental, great crowd show and the energy was so high, I don't mind because we run monitors on
Sure.
stage. I like it loud on stage, which is I know a lot of people don't like anymore, but I think I'm going deaf, which is why I've got this cranked all the way over here just so I can hear myself right now. But I don't mind that as much on a live setting if the energy was there and it was a great fucking night.
See, I don't mind having a great energy night and still having my ears at the end of the night. At the end of the day, the thing that I am more concerned about is the fact that I can hear when I'm 57 than that I had a great night when I'm 30.
Here's what I'm hopeful of, Joey, is that I've seen how technology has brought hearing aids to the older folks that are in our lives today. Very slim. You can barely even see them. I feel like...
You're just hoping that it looks like that.
but I feel like if they're that slim and you can't see them now, I hope that by the time I'm 55 or 60 or 65 that they're going to have some... you put a chip or something in your neck and you can hear it. It's like, that's what I'm hoping. Exactly.
See, I until that thing becomes technology that matters, then I am going to do either in-ear monitors, which is what I have now, and I bought nice buds and a nice body pack.
That's okay. I get it.
Or I'm going to do earbuds, earplugs. That'll be the nice molded plugs that I can cut 10 decibels or 15 decibels or whatever I want out of it and call it a day. I'm like, look, I can hear everything you can hear, just lower.
Just lower. And you can still perform and do everything you need to and move around.
And I guess I've been fortunate enough that I can jump around and do cool, like I can jam out like I know exactly. I can hear all those things
with
at
all
that
that
level.
in too.
Yeah. I can do all of that stuff and still just be a showman and do those things.
I want to be clear is that, and I've told many friends this before who've brought up in-ear monitors to me, and it's not like you're pushing me for it, but I will tell you that my ears, I've got this weird thing where one ear is fine, but one of my ears, it doesn't matter which attachment I'm using on like a set of earbuds for audio, they never stay in. I've got this super weird thing on my one ear.
So fun fact for you, you can get different size earbuds.
I've tried those though, and I'm not going to spend money on custom molded and just have it fucker fall out on me.
So if they're custom molded, they won't.
God, it's hard to believe though, because I've tried.
They won't.
I've tried so many ones before, and one ear is fine again, but just one ear.
Here is a cheap option. By cheap, I mean $160, $180, right? If you go to your local place and you get molded for earbuds and just do them as earplugs, like West Tone will do this.
Yep.
And you can go to a local audiologist for $20, and they'll do the molds, and then you can get this earplug.
I'm just skeptical.
And then if it doesn't work there, then fine, I believe you. But if you don't even try that because of whatever thing you think, then I don't believe you as much.
I know. I can't say much more than I've tried. Like, you know, when you buy like sets of those, and they like have the different sizes.
Universals don't work for everyone. They don't.
I'm saying with the different sizes.
But even that, like, did you do the triple flange? Did you do the double flange? Did you try the comply tips that are the foam tips?
See, I know what he's doing.
I mean,
he's being a dick right now.
Look here, if you gotta try some of these other things if you want to make those things work.
I've really tried though. It's not like I haven't tried.
I'm not saying you didn't. What I'm saying is you didn't try hard enough.
He's not wrong. But at the same time, I'm okay with a monitor too. So that's why I'm like, fuck it.
That's fine. I just don't want.
What was the way you were saying though? The
comply tips, COMPLY.
COMPLY.
But if you're looking at, and again, this is probably a good thing if you go to live music at all. And I like to go to live concerts and everything, right?
Oh,
I love that stuff.
If you can't tell, look in this room. Right?
Well, to be honest with you, I love that stuff. And so I like wearing the earplugs at live concerts that'll just cut it down 10 or 15 decibels. I'm like, look, I love it. And I love being near the front. And so I just need something that cuts down on the level of volume that's up front at a Lamb of God concert or a Megadeth. I need something that just makes it not that loud.
When I did see Lamb of God, though, it was so nice, though. Even though it was super loud, it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to.
I'm not disagreeing. I don't think they put on a bad show. I just would love to not be deaf after it.
It's true.
Like that's the only thing I'm saying here.
Yeah.
And so I just put in the cut earplugs, not plugs, the cut 15 or 10 decibels.
Is this the comply style you're talking
so
about?
the ones that I wear, the earplug bits are Westone. And I got them when I was like 19.
It says True Fit Foam.
So the comply tips are like the memory foam tips.
It says West Tone though here.
There's also a Westone. They're different. So if you're looking for comply tips, comply is they'll produce for other people as well.
So like this link right here, comply foam tips.
Yeah. Yep, and they'll have a bunch of different varieties for you, and they have a bunch of different styles. So they have the like olive ones that you're probably used to seeing, but they'll also have like the sport ones. So you look, there's several different ones in there, and they've got a bunch of them. They've got small, they've got medium, they've got large tips.
I've tried a lot of size tips that come with these headphones.
I believe you. I'm just saying that like these things and universals don't work for everyone. They don't. That's not a thing that I'm saying at all either. So if universals don't work for you, then you need to just spring for the couple $100, get yourself a custom fit earplug that'll do a 15 decibel cut or a 10 decibel cut, and just do that and wear those at shows. It's basically like you're listening to a living room radio again. You'll still feel all of the things that you were feeling before. It's just living room volume. It's no longer a live on stage show.
Not harming your ears.
The people in the crowd are different. Like the people in the crowd probably aren't hearing from the wedge monitor and from your guitar monitor and from the drums sitting right next to your left ear and whatever else you're doing, right? They're not hearing all of those things. What you're going to hear on stage is basically what the crowd is hearing right now.
Sure. Fair enough.
And if you can jam out on that, you can jam out on that.
It's not. It's honestly not that I'm afraid of spending the money on it. I just feel like I'm a doubter because of what I've tried that hasn't worked. But I haven't looked into the style or the other ones you were talking about. I feel like that could be further down the line. That will be something I'm probably going to end up looking into again.
I think at least give the universal earplugs a shot. At least do that.
Yeah.
And really, Westone does a pretty good job. And I don't know what they are cost-wise anymore, but when I got them 10 or 12 years ago, they were about $180. And that's all told. That's between the audiologist and the actual mold and everything else.
Sure.
About $180.
Okay.
And it was awesome. It was great. I love them. I still use them.
Something to consider, and definitely, I'm not trying to blow you off. I feel like, I think you've agreed and accepted that I've tried, but maybe I just haven't tried enough.
No, I get it. We're talking pod right now, and you got to keep going on the pod.
Oh, exactly. So we got inner monitors instead. We were talking about things like that jam up that are pretty nice. So that's me attempting. But
sure.
Here's the thing: when I'm plugged in, this is what I'm using.
Oh, yeah. So I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing at all.
You know what's funny? I think back to when I was in high school, and I want you to think back to when you were in high school too, because you're kind of close to my age. You're a little bit younger, right?
How old are you? We talked about RC Cola. Are you like 47?
Oh. 35.
Yeah, I'm 31. So
Okay. Now what were we even fucking talking about? I'm trying to remember.
Talking about Jam Hub. And then something beyond that.
So high school music.
Yeah,
when we were in high
music.
school, think about, I know you were punk, right? But
Yeah.
when you were 17, 18 years old, what was like the biggest bands in your life that you were listening to?
Oh, Jesus. I'm terrible at this game, by the way.
It's not a game.
I understand. I'm terrible at this game because I know all of the bands that I love, but I don't know if I can necessarily tell you when in my life I found them. And that's really the problem that I always run into is I'm like, look, this band is amazing, but I don't know if I could tell you that this band is amazing because I heard about them when I was 19 or I heard about them when I was 16. Or,
well, I guess when you were,
I would argue like Yellow Card's Ocean Avenue was massive when I was right around that age. I'm not going to say that it was that age. I might have been earlier or a little later, but it was right about then. That was huge.
So what I'm getting at,
I mean, I gotta been hearing. I would have heard MXPX's Chick Magnet for the first time. It was way older than that. Way older than that.
But the first time you heard it.
But that's the first time I heard it. That's when I discovered that.
So what I'm getting at, tying back to these the in-ear monitors, is that I remember back in high school, Linkin Park was kind of like, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to it.
That was when I was a freshman, sophomore.
I teased,
Sure.
friends who listened to it. Of course, now there's a couple of songs I'll listen to, but it's like their guitar player, and I can't remember his name. He always wore.
Yeah, no, the bass player, I think.
The guitar player did.
Wasn't it the bassist?
I'm 100% for sure.
Okay, then I believe you.
So the guitar player wore these big old headphones, and later on, I'm thinking, when I was doing the research and thinking about in-ear monitors, I'm like, they just don't work in my ears. I'm like, that's why that motherfucker did that.
Well, you really got to have a look to do that thing, though, too.
He had like a big.
Oh yeah, it was
massive.
massive. It was just the huge ass earbuds or earphones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if I bet you money. And I didn't look into it, but I'm assuming that was maybe his deal.
Well, but in that era, those earbuds weren't great either. So you deal with what you deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't make wireless of these, though.
They did not. No, he had it. It was wired. It was behind his back. You could see the wire going down.
That's what I'm saying, though. How could you be on stage and unless he didn't move around much and have a wired set of headphones?
I don't know if the guitarist did. I mean, the vocalist did, right? Chester Benningfield did a lot when he was alive.
Not these.
He was not. No, he was not the earphone guy.
I'm talking live.
The DJ wasn't. No, the guy with the guitar didn't move around a whole lot.
Maybe that's what it was.
He's like the Edge.
What was that guy's name? I don't even remember. Hold on.
I don't know.
I know. It's useless
shit. You know what? You bar argument that shit, and if you don't get it, you don't get it, and it's fine.
Guitar player.
No, but I'm just like, the Edge probably doesn't move very far. The guy has like an entire organ's worth of effects pedals sitting in front of him. He's
so
just there.
Which delay am I going to use today?
Right. Well, except that he's already decided that, right? Like he's decided he has 9 delay pedals on his board, and he's using one of those.
You think he's being a dick to his guitar tech? He's like, yeah, I wanted to set up this way. And he's like, just one. That's all he's using.
I would like these 19 delay pedals set up exactly this way every single time. Yeah, okay, I believe you. Sure. I thought he was a bassist, but
I guess regardless, though, he couldn't have moved very much then.
There's no way he did, right? And now that's got to be a modern picture of him, but like at the time, there weren't really wireless over ears.
There wasn't, was there?
Not really. Not at the
Not
level.
Even Bose.
Not the level that Linkin Park was playing. Not when he would have been doing stuff. He was playing with ears, like full wired earphones in.
I mean, I don't know if I can make these work on stage. It'd be kind of weird, but
if you got that style, you got that style, and if you cultivate that style, you can do whatever you want. And that's one of the things. If you aren't cultivating a style as a band, then okay, that's fine. But you aren't going to get a following because you aren't cultivating a style. If you want a thing, you need to have a dress, you need to have a style, you need to have a talk, you need to have a genre, and you need to know exactly what that is, and you need to do that thing. And I think that thing's incredible. I think the bands that can do that are awesome. I think the bands that have made it without those things are equally amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that the bands that have that thing are going to make it more frequently than the bands that don't.
You choose your own path. Little things like that, people remember and they stick out and stand out. Whether it's, us getting into the song, you're probably a little more energetic than I am, when you're getting into it, and people remember that stuff. I have fun too. I enjoy what I do, and that's why we do it. You know, when before we started recording, what was that we were talking about? You said you enjoy everything you do.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you have to have that mentality doing anything, whether it's drinking an Iowa single malt, or if you're doing a podcast, you're playing bass. Which, by look at that man's shirt, by the way, is that not an awesome shirt? I'll make sure that this camera's catching that.
So this is one of those shirts I saw on Amazon. I was like, I must own that right now.
Is that where it was? Amazon?
Yeah, I have it. I just was scrolling past, and I was like, I just happened to be scrolling through T-shirts. I was like, yep, got to own that.
I look at that and think like Warwick headstock, but I'm trying to figure out what it is just by looking. It's not a thumb model, or is that what that is?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I didn't look super close to that bit of it.
Yeah.
It looks like it's got the slots in the center of it, which is a very specific headstock type, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. So.
Yeah. No, it's a cool shirt though. I don't. Yeah. I've had guitar shirts in the past. I just don't. I wore a basic for this one. I didn't even change. I'm like,
I'm sorry, you wore a Nike.
Basic ed attire. I wear it underneath my polos for work. Sure. V-neck, baby, is where it's at.
Get a little bit of that chest hair going there.
You know, I got a little bit of that going on. I'm not advertising.
Get a little bush. Just spring it out. Spring it right out.
I'm like the Bush Light. Was the Bush Light man or something with the flannel? I just don't drink Bush Light. So not that there's anything wrong with that, though. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
That's the it's Iowa water. Yeah. Isn't it?
Iowa water is the Bush lattes.
Bush lattes, which I've learned.
Some people have called it river water.
Oh my god. So for Joey, we've talked about a lot of things so far. He's a teacher and mathematician, robotics. He's a hell of a musician, and that's actually is that how I met you originally?
I think so. Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't
remember when we met. No, I can't be honest. To be fair, I'm bad at telling people meeting stories because I can't tell you very often.
I don't remember.
I know how my wife and I met, and I only know that because we met online.
That's definitely important. That's more important. And it was not farmersonly.com.
You're right. It wasn't. It was J-Date. And then we met again on Christian Mingle. It was weird.
Whoa. I
was like, look, this is fate. We're both here.
That's a good story. One you're going to tell your kids.
Yes, if we have any of those.
I was just doing a creepy wink to him.
I think everyone saw it.
Did they?
You're good.
Anyway, so musician, I don't remember how the hell I met him, but known him through the years and hung out doing.
I think we met when you were playing with what was the band with Nick Hippert? Motorboat. I think we met with Motorboat. Yeah, no, I think at Rhino's actually.
Was it at Rhino's in Tipton?
I think so.
I don't even think that's a place anymore.
It's not. It doesn't exist. It was Tiger's Den for a while, and it doesn't exist anymore at all now.
Was that when it was?
I think so, yeah.
It was. I just had a flashback. Here's how I remember. Because our drummer, and if she watches, I don't know if she does, her name was Tiffany. She had this big old 80s cage full of like shit that was hanging from it and chains and stuff like that. Yeah. And then
she was a good fucking drummer for you too.
And then Nick always carried a few G&L basses around.
Yep.
I remember when he was getting them ready, I feel like you were there talking to him. That was it. I do remember now. Look at that. I remember. Thanks to him. God, that was few.
Oh God, it must be 6 years ago at least now.
It seems longer, right? Yeah.
It must be it's at least 6 years.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I've known him for a little while, and then the funny thing is I've known him through other bands and stuff like that where we've kind of connected and working on things, but now, which is even more ironic, my girlfriend Lacey, when I met her, and then by chance she's good friends with you guys, and of course works with you. I'm like, oh, I know this guy.
I mean, so I like to tell people, right? I'm a teacher, I'm a bartender, and I play bass in rock bands. I have all the best jobs.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to get into that, but like,
I'll get into whatever you want.
So he bartends a little bit too, and not like I want to get into deep into like the bartending side of things, but you had to have run into all kinds of people through the years.
I've got to be honest here. I worked at a Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits when I was in college.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And
Where
from
at?
about up in Cedar Rapids.
Yep.
I went to Coe College. So I about 4.5 years. I worked at the Wilson Avenue Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits, and Brad was my boss, and the guy's amazing. He's great.
Is he still there?
He's still there. Yeah, I'll stop in actually. If I'm going to buy liquor up in Cedar Rapids, I'm going to buy it from the Wilson Avenue because the guy's just incredible.
Do they stock Cedar Ridge?
He stocks everything. Yeah. And what's amazing, and I'm going to tell you one story here. When the Templeton Rye Dry was going on, right? So Templeton Rye was expanding production, but it was rough, so they had to shut things down and do the expansion.
When was this? Back when you were in high school?
This was
high school,
fucking. This must be 12
college.
years ago now.
Yeah.
10 years ago. It must be. It was a long time ago. Anyways, they shut down. So stores were getting a case, which is 6 bottles of Templeton Rye for the month. And a month. Yeah, a lot of the stores in the Cedar Rapids area would raise their prices. So it's like $33 normally ish. Places in Cedar Rapids were raising that to $45 or $50 because they were gonna make a profit on that thing. It was small supply demand, right?
Sure.
The guy that was running my Hy-Vee was like, "We're gonna sell it for the dollar amount we sell it at, and when we sell it out, we sell it out, and that's it." And I was like, you know what? I appreciate this person for the decisions he's making right now.
It's not gouging.
And it was right, exactly. He was like, "Look, this is what we're making on this thing, and this is what we're doing." So I will go to that Hy-Vee every single time I go into Cedar Rapids because that guy always will set his prices to whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that about a person, and I'm gonna 100% support that Hy-Vee every time I go up there. So if I have to buy anything, I don't care what it is, I'm going to go to that Hy-Vee because of that guy.
That's awesome. And he still works there. And
he's still there. He's still running the Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits department over there.
And you know what? Well, I almost forgot because we talked about earlier your involvement with Cedar Ridge. We definitely have to talk about that.
Yeah. So Cedar Ridge, I went to high school with one of the kids of the guy who owns this company, right? The Murphy Quint, the Quint family. I don't know if I can say the last name. If you can't, you can bleep it out, right? But anyway, so I'm the Quint family owns this company.
It's promotion.
And Murphy Quint was a kid I went to middle school and high school with, and his dad planted those vineyards, and so his friends with my dad as well, and they called me up and they were like, "Hey, do you want to go and do this thing, and it will pay you $10 an hour," or whatever the hell it was. I don't even remember anymore what it was. It was pretty good, and I was like, "All right, yeah, I'll 100% go and do whatever the hell you want for X amount of dollars an hour," right? So I went out there, and we did the planting, and I planted the original Cedar Ridge vineyard.
That's awesome.
So it's a great time. The people, they're amazing. I was a post hole. I was like in back, and you just do all those things. Yeah, is what it is.
Yeah. So you actually were in before anything else. No buildings were up yet.
Yeah. Well, the building, part of the building was probably up. Like there might have been a shed down there, but sure. Yeah, it was. I was in there really early on.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Is it fun then to have like a scotch like this?
It's kind of awesome to see. It's a single malt whiskey.
Thank you. Single malt. Is it fun to have like a single malt?
I got to be honest, it's really cool to see how great Cedar Ridge has become. And I haven't gone up there to visit at all, but
I did today. It's pretty nice.
I know it is. Yeah, I would love to go up there and see everything they've done. They've done some really cool stuff.
Why don't we go up then with me and Lacey and you and Tracy?
Yeah, sometime? Sure. You're saying that like it's a joke on pod because Lacey and Tracy rhyme. But those are really their names.
Totally unintentional. Totally unintentional.
Yeah, I'm just, it would be cool. I would love to just get back up there and just say hi to people and just see what the heck is going on with all that stuff now.
Can we do it when it's warmer?
I'm 100% going up there anytime. So if we go up there in the summertime, I literally can get wasted face and just pass out the next day.
Perfect.
Because as mentioned previously, teacher. So
yes, Monday through Friday jobs. That's what we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can't pass out every day because I do have to do stuff as a teacher over the summer, but I can once in a while, I can let loose on a Tuesday.
I think you owe it to yourself. You know what? So here's the thing. We're both kind of teachers. You teach.
The only thing you're missing here is a pipe. Like you gotta cross legs and pipe.
He teaches children. I teach adult children.
To be fair, I'm on a side note here. I'm sorry. People have asked if I want to be a principal, and I'm like, no. I teach high school kids right now. I don't know if I want to deal with high school kids later, like large high school kids. Right? I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So as a teacher, and this is, I don't know if this is okay to talk about. So you as a teacher, is there room to move up in a school?
No.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
No, there's not. So what you can do as a teacher in Iowa is that you can become an administrator, which is not teaching, or you can do extra duties. You can be a coach if you want to be, which will pay you X% of a salary depending on where you're at. You can be TLC, which is Teacher Leadership Committee stuff. That's new within the last 3 years. You can do robotics will pay, and that only pays within the last year here. The first couple of years I did robotics coaching, $0. I did it for free because I was like, look, this thing needs to happen.
Yeah.
And this year now I'm getting paid for being a robotics coach, which is I think really cool. You can be a choir, you can do play. Like there's side jobs you can do, but you can't move up as a teacher. You can get a master's degree and you can PhD, and those are how you move up as a teacher. And that's it. There's nothing else.
Okay.
There's no upward boundaries. Eventually you cap out on your dollar amount per year, because and this is weird to people who are not in the career, but the more you've been teaching, the better you are as a teacher. Fun fact for you.
It's like anything else.
But we get paid like that, right? For the first about 15 years, and then it just stops happening, and then we get COLA, essentially, which is not always COLA, but usually COLA. It depends on what the state determines is okay to give us.
What's COLA?
Cost of living increase.
Oh, yeah. Of course I know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know why. One thing that I deal with all the time is acronyms, too.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not used to hearing it from somebody else.
Sure, yeah.
Like the amount of acronyms I have to know.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I understand entirely. I know about 1,000 of them right now that I could just list as a teacher.
Yeah, and me, too, as a McDonald's janitor. But
I believe you, yeah. McDonald's janitors get
get
real tough.
I believe you.
They get real tough raps, man. But if you looked at some of the signs on those walls, those are real rough to read.
The cockroaches are so big at McDonald's.
The cockroach.
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 The Scarface. Is that where that's from?
It is, exactly, yes.
I'm like the Scarface of the McDonald's.
Of the McDonald's janitor.
In the area. I'm a traveling janitor.
I like it.
It's what I do.
Yeah.
There's no shame in doing what you love.
I don't think anyone here is judging you.
Oh, they are. Trust me.
Not anyone here is not judging you.
Oh, you mean
that's what I'm saying right now.
Yes. Once this is published, it's going to be judged by.
It's fine. Don't worry about them.
It'll be judged by tens.
They're fine.
Tens of maybe 100.
Hey, hundreds of people judging you is rough.
Did you hear that? Hey, by the way, Cedar Ridge. I've got 261, I think, subscribers at this point. It's growing every day. We're getting there.
I like it.
It is. And you know what? This is number 18,
This one's going to really spike here. This one's going to give you another 100 subscribers.
I hope it does. I really hope it does. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, I don't give a fuck because I'm just having fun doing what I like to do. And that's just hanging out with friends, musicians, people that I find interesting, and I learn all the time. You know what I'd really like to do? I'd really like to get somebody on, and I was talking to Lacey about this the other day. There's two people I'd really like to have on. The person that's in charge of this telescope or something that's happening in Wilton.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not telescope, but
it's a telescope.
Observatory or something like that.
Well, the observatory has a telescope in it, so yes, you're the same. It's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, right?
But I want to have him on, who's supporting and funding
Supporting?
Funding?
Supporting may not happen. That guy is rich as shit.
Funding.
That guy is rich as shit, too. Those are the same people.
I want to have...
That's the Townsend family is what you're looking
That's
at?
what she was telling me. Yeah.
That person is rich as balls.
I want him on. He's going to provide the scotch.
I don't think you understand how rich that person is.
Is he really rich?
I don't think you understand.
Is he from Wilton?
I don't think you understand what dollar amount that person looks at and says, "Yeah, that's pocket change."
I got McDonald's money.
If you look at a dollar amount and you are like, "Yeah, that dollar amount seems crazy," that person would be like, "Add a zero, and that's what I carry in my wallet every day."
That's crazy.
That's what you're looking at right now.
You know how broke I am? I don't carry any cash in my wallet.
To be fair, the only reason I carry cash in my wallet is because I'm a bartender.
The only reason I carry cash in my wallet
That's it.
Is gig money. That's the only
yeah, there you go. Fair enough.
So I want to have that gentleman on. I also want to have the gentleman that's responsible for the fiber in this area. I can't remember his name. It's that.
Oh man, there's no fiber in this area, by the way.
Well, he's wanting to get it here. What's his name? I can't remember now.
Night Owl. It's the Night Owl guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. I'm sorry.
I want to have him on too. I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna have some people that we can have on here, that I can have on here, that I can bring in a little bit more too. I want to expand this. I'm doing 2 a month now.
Sure.
Joey Kramer is the first of 2 this month. The next one I have coming on later this month, he's another musician, but he owns a gym in Iowa City. He's a drummer.
Yeah.
Ethan Burns. And then, it's so much fun doing this because I learned so much.
Who does Ethan Burns play with?
So he's played original music with, the guy from he's played in Muscatine a lot. It was an original group, metalish kind of music.
You know why I cut this out later on?
I might. No. Just to be fair, I never cut any material out of these podcasts.
I'm just mentioning you might want to cut this part out.
He played with something. What was the gentleman there? There was like a metal band that was playing in Muscatine.
Right. It was Room 212, but
no original music only.
Well, okay. To be fair, Room 212 played originals music.
I've shared a show with Room 212 before it froze with Blackout. That's not metal. I'm talking.
Okay. Is it recent?
No, this was like 5 years ago.
They played metal that long ago.
Not Room 212. It's
really.
What was that band? The guy, it were like real metal. I think Josh Fox, who's going to be on the podcast in a few months. He was a drummer as well at one point, and then the bass player was like Tony or Tone.
Tony Tone.
Is it not Tony Tone? The DJ.
Tony Tone. This night on the radio.
No, not him. I'm trying to have him on the podcast too. He's actually going to be on it in a little bit. I'm hoping in a couple of months. Yes.
I mean, I can do radio voice, right? Like I
think you've got a good radio voice.
I can make that. I can be like, hello, this night on the radio, we're going to listen to some fun songs here. 98.1 KHAK.
Why not?
I could 100% do that. I've had people tell me that before. They're like, look, your voice is great for radio. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that thing.
It does, though. The way you just did that, it sounds good.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I think I have a good radio voice. I do.
Yeah.
I've come to understand that I do have that thing, but I don't know if I want to do it. Because I can inflectionate. I can do like the low, like the bear voice. I can make that happen too, right? Like, hey, how y'all doing out there?
Yeah.
Good night.
Smooth and sexy.
That's this is Jazz 98.7. KAH7.
Is it 93.1? Is that the Muscatine channel?
I don't know. 93.1. This is the Jazz station. Sunday nights. Yeah.
I feel like the bass player's name, I just remember, I think is it Tony Hernandez?
I believe that's the bass player. So
they play together. Anyway, the guy coming later this month, he owns a gym in Iowa City.
Sure.
He owns a gym and he plays drums, so that'll be fun.
What gym?
I can't fucking remember.
You need to cut all of this shit out.
I need
keep that radio bit, but leave all the rest of that shit out.
Here's the deal. You know what? I'm gonna look it up because we can do that because I do what I fucking want.
You know what? We are bar arguing right now, and you can't look shit up in bar arguments.
Oh, I got Google.
There's no no crying in baseball.
Am I a drunk Tom Hanks to you right
No,
now?
I am a drunk Tom Hanks to you right now because
Yeah.
I just said the Tom Hanks line.
I love that line, by the way.
I think everyone loves that line, and it's just amazing, right?
Well, the sad thing is, there's got to be people out there that don't know. Ethan Burns. It's called Alchemy, Strength, and Conditioning.
I don't know if I know that, but that's awesome. What you should do is say that line again, and then cut out the rest, and just say, "Hey, there's this guy named from Ethan Burns from Alchemy, Strength, and Conditioning."
I don't remember what the hell that band was. They used to be in the metal band in the Muscatine.
I don't think that part's important. I think if we really just say that bit again, we're good.
I feel like the guitar player. He was from Muscatine.
Didn't you say he was a guitar player?
No, he's the drummer.
Oh, right, sure.
And I know the bass player was Tony Hernandez, I think. Anyway, I'm talking about these future guests, and the thing is that I try to get all kinds of people, but I want the what was it called? The internet fiber one again?
Night Owl.
Night Owl guy. That's what your name is right now. Night Owl guy.
Night Owl guy.
And telescope.
He's not going to
guy.
look up your name.
Telescope guy. He's gonna, I guarantee you, Night Owl guy is not even going to look at these previous podcasts either. Right now, we're just bullshitting at this point.
Sure.
And then I'm going to get telescope guy.
And telescope guy is, I think, Townsend, the Townsend family.
Townsend.
Right. I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about.
Is he from Wilton?
I am pretty sure that's what's behind a lot of the Wilton.
Townsend.
I think so. I don't know for sure, but I suspect.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Durant, by the way.
Durant?
This town
You're
is
in
there,
Durant.
But I know. I've only been here for like a year and a half or 2 years.
Well, still.
It's like, what's the big
How
name?
often do you hang out at the local bar?
I played there a couple of times.
You know how much you find out by hanging out at the local bar? A shit ton.
I drink at home.
You hang out at the local bar, and that's how you find about local gossip.
I drink at home because I'm a traveling McDonald's guy. That's
all
why.
I'm saying is that you hang out at that place, and you'll be fine.
So I've played a few solo acoustic gigs there, and they're really friendly to me. But I don't really ask like, "Hey, so what's the gossip?" or talk to them about any of that. But I'm curious, like in Durant, though.
Oh, you 100% do that at bars.
What is in this area? What is the big name in this side of like?
I don't know for sure. I don't know who makes the massive donations here. I don't know if there's anyone that does that right now.
I don't know either.
There's probably someone, but it's not me. So
you know what was frustrating when they speaking of money and donations and like they voted on that thing for the school here.
Yeah.
I know you're a teacher.
Yeah.
So it's like it was frustrating. I voted yes to do
Well,
that.
I understand. I get it. I would have voted yes had I been in the district to vote on that thing.
I voted on it totally yes, and I was so bummed. I felt like that was a shoo-in. Like you're helping the community. So how do we describe this? How do we let them know what we're talking about?
So there was a vote on the school district, right? And the school district wanted to renovate the gym.
Where I live, by the way.
Yeah, in Durant. They wanted to renovate the gym, the offices to move them out. They wanted to renovate a STEM classroom to make it look an official STEM classroom and not just a revamped ICN classroom, right? They wanted to revamp the choir room and the band room and the auditorium. They wanted to do all of these things. And what it essentially boiled down to was people didn't want to renovate the gym. They thought that because we were renovating the gym, we shouldn't get money.
Why?
Because it was a gym. And the gym was good enough for them and should be good enough for the current students.
But it's not just a gym. It wasn't used for like, other things.
Well, so it got used for choir, which shouldn't have been because the auditorium should have been good enough. But the auditorium is dark, and the audio isn't there, and it's just not.
So you upgrade the sound
it's not
system.
up to par. Well, yes, except that to upgrade the sound system was about the same dollar amount to upgrade just a good amount of the auditorium, right? Like it costs thousands of dollars to run that stuff and do all those things. And to be fair, I could volunteer some of my time to do that, but that seems real rough on people who are paid to do that thing. And I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, I understand.
So as a teacher, I will troubleshoot, but I won't problem solve. And that's not because I don't want to. It's Because if I do that, I'm taking a job away from someone else who can do that job and is getting paid for that job and has a family and kids and something else. And I'm like, I'm not gonna take an entire month's worth of paychecks away from that person because I can do that job in less time.
Sure.
If I can, I should just do that job, right?
Sure. Yep.
My skills shouldn't benefit my school district unless I'm getting compensated for those.
I think
skills.
that's fair.
And that sucks. And that's hard to differentiate for a lot of people.
I don't know if it sucks. I feel like it's fair. If you're going to do something, you need to be compensated for it.
Yes.
Unless it's a
Yes.
completely.
Yes. Except that.
Unless I get it. I know where you're going. Go for it, though. I know where you're getting at.
No, go ahead.
I feel like, yeah, I get it. Unless it's for the good of the community and the good for the school that you're a part of.
Well,
and
right.
everything
Except
like
that it is, right? And
I get it.
I can't. Even as a person who cares about these kids, and I love these kids, and I think they're amazing. I think they're going to go on to do amazing things. I can't justify doing the things I can do just because I can do them to make the school better if I'm not getting paid for them, because what that's doing is devaluing the work that exists here, because the next person that comes in won't know anything about what I'm doing here and won't know that it's because I'm amazing and just volunteering my service. What they'll know is this thing got done for free and fuck the next guy. And you know what I'm not going to do is fuck the next guy.
Right. Yeah.
I'm never ever going to do that. It's as a band person, I understand only too well that if I hire myself out for food and drinks, for a local bar, that the next person who comes in there, they're going to expect them to hire out for food and drinks, right? And I understand that as a person, and I will take a pay cut because I am a starter band. Like Hard Sevens will play for cheaper than what they should play for. But it's because they have none following.
Yep.
They have none experience as a band.
Like that, you know.
That's fine. That's fair. That's 100% fair on their side. And so we'll play for a little cheaper. We won't play for $50 and
per person.
Right. We won't play for that. We'll play for 300 plus drinks, right? We'll do that, sure. And a bar looking at drinks is not the same thing as you or I looking at drinks. A bar looking at drinks is like, that's $1 a person. So
exactly.
Fuck it. It's $4 it's $20 to give each of them one set drink a night.
Yep.
Cool. Give them that.
Yeah. Shouldn't even be
You're right.
Shouldn't even be an issue.
You're right.
And it always blows me away. And sorry to interrupt you. When I played at a ton of bars, just like you have over the years, right? The bars that if it's like you ask them or you bring it up and ask them, it's like an issue. I'm like, why? For the same reason that you just explained. It's like, why is that a big deal?
$20. It's $20 for 4 people for an entire one drink per 4 sets. There's 4 drinks for each person. And some of those people aren't even drinking.
Yeah.
So it's probably less than $20.
Exactly.
And that's weird. That's weird to me. But again, not a huge deal. So
it's disappointing how some bars are.
Well, and I get it because they're looking at bottom line and they're looking at whatever they're looking at, and that's fine. That's okay.
You got to spend money to make money.
Yes and no, right? You got to spend money to make money, but you also have a person who has actually heard your band and says, yeah, you'll fly here, or no, you won't fly here. And that's a step that bars don't take.
Yeah.
They don't want to say, we should pay someone or have someone on staff who can say, this band is a band that'll make it, or this band is a band that won't. And as a band person, I would appreciate that. I would appreciate a person on staff saying, look, you're going to make it here, and that's great. Or look, the area we're in is really catering toward X music. And I'm fine with that. I as a band person, I have no problem. I'm like, look,
you understand.
I think this thing will work. I think this Hard Sevens, right? 90s, 2000s. I'm going to say that because they're in the garage still. I think this thing will work. I think this thing is where music is going. And I think that if someone says, look, that's going to work, great, we'll play there. And I see a person who says, look, this thing isn't going to work, I'll argue with them a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're the one calling the shots. Like, it's not me. I'm not saying I'm going to play here. I don't give a shit about what you say. I can't do that.
It's tough. You know, a lot of people don't realize being in a band is tough in many ways. It really is. It's not just as simple as you think it is. You know, you're basically building up a band with members. You're creating schedules for practices to create a product that you can present that it's going to, you know, have bar owners think that, yeah, I can totally spend the money and be satisfied to think that I'm going to get the results that I want. But man, there's a lot of work that we do that goes into this and nobody ever understands or appreciates it. Even bar owners, there's a lot of bar owners that do appreciate and understand, but let's be honest, there's a lot that they just don't get it. And those are the ones that maybe bitch and complain about a drink every set too.
I agree. I think
tough,
I think really overall, I think you need to be what you are. And if you are what you are, present yourself as such.
Yeah.
And the bands or the places that'll play you will play you, and the places that won't. And it's okay. It's okay. It's fine if the places that don't play you don't play you. You don't have to appeal to everyone all the time.
Exactly. I'm going to give you my direction. So my direction for I do solo acoustic. I'm in full bands. I've recently cut down from 2 full bands to 1 full band. This is what my plan is. And everybody, this is not a shameless self-promotion, but I did for a full year. I did solo acoustic shows. I did like 24 shows in a year, or 23, 24, 25, something around there. It's about 2 a month roughly on average, right? You know what I did last month? I did I did Instagram Live, YouTube Live. I did Facebook Live. I did just me sitting in here on a Friday when Lacey was working. I had nothing to fucking do. I'm just sitting here jamming. I had so many comments and people viewing, and I don't know. Let me get your honest opinion on this. Whoa, I'm throwing the keyboard around. As me, as a solo acoustic performer, selling my soul with that acoustic and playing shit that I don't necessarily want to play, it gets me enough views and comments and likes and things like that. I'm thinking that I'm going to move forward. I
got to be honest. If you're going to do that, you do like wineries and you do coffee shops. You can play every Sunday from now to eternity and charge $1 million. That's not.
Here's the thing. I got kids. I just want to be at home. Here's the thing. On Friday nights, it's
That's a different problem.
But it's not a problem. Every Friday,
100% a problem.
No. It's a good thing. So I think that I can capitalize. I'm not trying to say make a shitload of money. This is what I've done. So after I did 1 live night of me solo acoustic, just jamming around, drinking at home, safe at home, taking, requests from friends that are a part of my life socially. And I'm thinking, if I do this once a month, I never do this for money anyway. Like, we're always, like you said.
We're always negative. You'll do it for money, by the way. We'll do it for money. I've played some songs that I'm like, God damn it, that song. I have played Sweet Caroline.
Oh!
More than once live.
How dare you?
And I've done backing vocals where I was like, bum, bum, bum.
And then he goes home and he cries himself to sleep. And that's what happens.
I don't cry myself to sleep at all. I'm like,
that's a joke.
I'm like, look, I've got my $. I'm going to go home and I'm going to be done. That's it. That's what happens here.
At some point, the rich guy, like the Townsend guy in Wilton, he's like, I got all this money, but he's like, fuck. I got no soul.
Right. To be fair here, I make $100.
That's so what I'm thinking, I
look out of the crowd and that crowd's having a good fucking time. And I'm like, look, that's amazing. That's amazing that the crowd's having that time.
But like I just said, though, I did these and I'm like getting all these views and these comments. I had on a Facebook Live one alone on my Ed Madison acoustic project page, over 100 comments, requests, people interacting on just an hour's worth of playing, not 3 hours. 1 hour. Me sitting here asking for requests. I think my future is on the acoustic solo thing is me 1 Friday a month sitting in front of this computer,
like Twitch TV style.
But
I really think if you did this at a winery, you'd be way better off.
I don't want to play Sundays.
I'm just saying, it's like $200 a show for you only.
I know.
If you can handle doing those requests and just playing that shit, Fine, do that shit.
I don't want to talk money because this is I'm going to record. I'm going to publish all this.
All I'm saying is
But
that,
I'm gonna
like,
say
look, you make a couple hundred. Okay, you'll make more than that, but still.
I feel like, because I don't do it for money, I'm thinking I'm going to do once a month, sell my soul in front of a webcam and just play. And then I set up a digital tip jar. There's a website. It's like Patreon, but it's called Digital Tip Jar. I'm just going to let people donate. And I'm just going to try it out. I think that's the next step. Remember we were talking future and like, parents and stuff. And like, I feel like the next step is we need to think about how can we perform and how can we, I do a lot of live streaming on Facebook for Blackout, my full band that I'm in, and I just, because why not let them see what's going on? And we get all kinds of views and comments on that too. I feel like there's a future in, not to take away from bars.
Sure.
But there's got to be something that's going to happen.
So here's what I think you do, and you cut all of this out, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All of this. Yeah. You got to edit one time. You do that, and you bleep all of my dollar amounts, and you put literally a robot voice over it saying $1 million. Every single one of them. $1 million.
And everybody laughs.
$1 million.
And like somebody whispers.
Every time I say anything about it, right? Every time anyone says anything. Every time I say a dollar amount, you just bleep all that shit out. You bleep all of this right now out. And you do exactly that shit.
If we could have it like Austin Powers where he's like $1 million and then somebody's like,
all right, so he's
like, okay.
You ready?
$1 billion.
Ready? $1 million.
And everybody gets like,
go ahead. No, just play that in there. You gotta wait because you can't say words while I'm doing this thing. You can't clip it, right? All right. No, you get away from the microphone here. $1 million. All right, you got it. All right, there you go. You just clip that into everywhere I said $200. You just clip that shit in there.
I just love in that Austin, but was it 1 or 2 where he's like, oh, okay, $1 billion.
Yes, you're right.
Instead of 1 million.
All right, you want me to do $1 billion too, so you can cut that into the next one. All right. $1 billion. All right. Just cut that in anywhere you want
and
right now.
Gets super serious.
It doesn't fucking matter.
$1 billion.
It doesn't fucking matter. Cut that in everywhere you want to cut it in. And then you do whatever the hell you want. You cut out all of these parts because you have to edit sometime.
Can we test this? So in my digitaltipjar.com, I'm going to have donations for
$1 million.
That's where I'll copy and paste that in there. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm going to do live stream once a month.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not even going to reach out for bookings.
That seems amazing.
For a solo acoustic.
I agree. Yeah.
Full band is different.
Yeah.
But
no, someone else does that shit anyways, right?
Do they?
Don't they?
I don't know.
Who books your band, man?
We do.
Who's we?
Me and the other Gentiles.
All of you book on the band?
Yeah. For instance, earlier today, Chad, the drummer, was reaching out because Whitetails wants us back again, and we're trying to figure out.
Sure. Yeah,
we're trying to figure out another date to make it work, or if it's like Fro always talks to me, or if it's like fucking Chrome Horse Saloon in Cedar Rapids, it's it's gonna be Nick or something. Depends on where it's at. Line in the sand.
We're gonna cut here. Can we cut here? Is that okay?
Absolutely. By the way, Cedar Ridge, when the fuck are you going to send me a bottle of this for free? Just saying.
We have drank half a bottle each at this point here.
Trisha, are you listening?
I think. All right, let's wrap this up. We're going to talk off camera here.
We're going to finish this up. Hold on. We're not done yet.
I got you. We're going to finish this up. We're going to talk off camera.
Trisha, are you listening? Let's make it happen. Your people call my people. Or you can just email me, whatever.
You know what? Your people call his people. His people are good.
Joey's going to take that call. So what's it going to take?
It's going to take $1 million. You know what? It is what it is. It is what it is.
You know what?
You can negotiate down from there.
If you want 261 subscribers to view this and see this, you know, I will say, look at the coating on this. I mean, this is really, I mean, it's
so the fingers are nice. Like I've looked at this thing because I drank this thing, and the fingers are nice. They'll reach. It's good.
I still taste that it hits you.
You can really taste the aftertaste. Like you can really taste where they were going with the Scotch, and it's good.
Scotch.
I like it.
Scotch.
I'm sorry. This single malt whiskey.
I did it earlier too. It's okay.
Boo boo. Single malt whiskey. Whatever.
Whatever.
All right, you can
Whatever.
You can definitely taste where they're going with the single malt whiskey.
It's
here,
a barley
right?
product. 51% at least barley in this thing. The rest of it could be corn. Did
All
you
I'm
say,
saying, it tastes corny, but it's good. It's good. It's a good corn mash.
Maybe
if that's what it is, it's good.
You know what I think it is? You mentioned corn. I totally taste that too, but I wonder if it's the cocoa powder that's mimicking.
It's fair. I don't disagree with you at all.
Okay.
It definitely could be. And my nose is not great. So Glencairn gas, a Glencairn glass is not the best glass for me because
Which one do you use?
Tell
the listeners.
I use literally just like a straight up like a rocks glass or a highball glass, because I can't smell super great. That's the sense that's going for me.
The good news is hearing's
smell.
In place because of the earplugs.
It is, as surprising as that might sound, playing with super loud rock bands. But my smell is going, and that's what I like. I smell it and I'm like, I don't know why you're smelling honey right now, but sure, why not? Let's say that thing's true.
You gotta put your whole nose in it.
I get it. I get what's going on in there, but I still am smelling a lot of corn.
I feel like when you let it sit, I feel like that's when you can kind of taste the cocoa a little bit, the cocoa powder and the.
I'm not saying you can't taste the cocoa. All I'm saying is that you can smell a lot of corn in there.
You can.
And
No.
I'm not saying that that's definitely what's happening. I might be totally off base. Maybe rice. I don't know.
So let me ask you this: if it's at least 51% barley in this, because it's a single malt whiskey, does that mean, because it's not a bourbon, which would be at least 51% corn?
Yeah.
Does that mean 45% of this is corn then, because they already have corn on the site?
I don't know. All I'm tasting is a lot of corn. Cut all of this out if you need to.
It's fucking corny. That's all I gotta say. We're not cutting anything out except
that's false. You cut all of
1
those.
million,
You
1 billion.
literally cut all of those bits out and do whatever you want.
I mean, I do what I want. I'm just gonna let it ride. I don't even care.
All right, look. This is click numero final.
Is
Here.
it the final one?
This is the final click. We gotta be done.
Are we done?
We have got to be done.
Here's the deal. I just want to be clear before I click him, because I'm not ready to end this yet. We've done this for now. I think it's been 2 hours plus.
It's more than 2 hours.
But you know what's great though? I love about my podcast, Joey Kramer,
Sure.
guest number
Ed
18.
Madison.
I learned so much. We talked about math. We talked about robotics. We talked about music, and we talked about earplugs. What else did we talk about?
Music.
Millions and billions of
We
dollars.
talked so little about music, by the way.
What else? Well, I know. That's okay. That's all right.
I'm just mentioning.
What didn't we get to today?
We talked about $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 billion.
Oh, $1 billion. Should we give him a send off then? Are you ready for that?
What's the send off?
I don't know.
You give me it and we'll say it together, and then you cut out the middle man.
Joey Kramer has been nice enough to hang out today on the podcast. And you know what? We made it through all the way, drank through a whole bottle of Cedar Ridge single malt, limited edition, chocolate single malt. And he's a great guy. Was nice enough to come all the way over. 10 minutes away.
Hey! And you know what? This has been the Ed Madison Podcast Project.
Woo!
Yeah!
Toast it out. Joey Kramer, everybody. We were going to see you in a couple of weeks. We're going to have Ethan Burns on. He owns a gym. What was it called?
It was called a gym.
Fucking gym.
You have to remember shit.
I don't work out. We'll see you next time.
See you there.
Peace.